If this is true, then our country is in a lot of trouble.
We would have these trips, these special trips.
But he said, my daddy takes the bodies to the grocery store and he grinds them up and puts it in the hamburger. And nobody ever knows it.
How can kids 6, 8, 10 years old be describing rituals that come from a book like the Book of the Dead? It's hard to get your mind around people being capable of this kind of evil.
This is Dan Bidondi of TruthRadioShow.com. I am honored to offer my listeners a 1-month free subscription to nystv.org. Subscribers will have access to thousands of NYC TV videos from spiritual warfare to biblical and occultic topics, banned from YouTube videos, and much more. Subscribe today on nystv.org and use the promo code DANTheMan and receive your first month free.
This is not some soulless factory. This is long, quiet days with the Father. This is obedience. This is cold, early mornings, tired, rough hands, and hot summer days. This is quality before quantity. This is where you're not just a customer, you're a client. I don't just work for you, but with you. This is where your ideas come to life. I am Joshua Watts. I love what I do and that I'm able to use my skills to serve our Father and you. I look forward to working with you. This is Joshua Watts Leathercomb.
And welcome everybody to Spiritual Warfare Friday. And today's title for tonight's broadcast is Giants Returning Upon the Earth. So, as the days of Noah, so shall it be in the coming of the Son of Man. So, and everything before the flood, we talk about this all the time, about giants, Genesis 6 stuff and everything else. And even today, in some places, some of these still probably do exist. And which we know out in the Middle East, we got some stuff on that. But welcome to the show, everybody. And, my name is Dan Bidondi, and co-host here is Brian. So what's going on, Brian?
Not much, Dan. I'm super excited, and man, this is going to be like a killer show. I'm pretty stoked about it, for sure. This is up my alley, so to speak. Yeah.
So I want to thank ShakeAwakeRadio.com and BeforeIt'sNews.com for carrying the show, guys. So please check that network out, ShakeAwakeRadio.com. They carry all our broadcasts, me, Brian, and all the guys on IEC TV. And the show tonight is brought to you by WattsLeather.com. So check them out, guys. Your custom leather projects become reality. So anyway, we got so much stuff to go into tonight, guys, and I don't even know where to begin because we got so much stuff, especially Brian, mostly, so much stuff to talk about, and giants, and people want to know what giants are. So now we talk about a 7-foot guy. We're talking about beings that were on this earth and probably still on this earth to this day that go 13, 14, 15 feet tall and more. You know what I mean? So when what the Bible talks about giants. So Brian, want to kick it off? Go for it. I had a long day, man. It's just like I had to work a double yesterday. I had a wrestling show earlier tonight, and so I had to race here to the studio to get here. That's why we started at 11 instead of 10. So and I want to thank everybody for joining us on this awesome Friday night. So, and it's getting cold out. So,
it is getting
cold.
Into
the winter, man.
Yeah, get you some energy, get you some coffee, and let's just try to calm down because this is going to be it's going to be a ride tonight for sure. So it's really going to be cool. So I'm pretty stoked about it. Yeah. And before I even start out with the broadcast and the information I'm going to be presenting tonight, I want to share a testimony. Well, it's like, actually, I just want to just praise the Father. I'm going to talk about it for a few minutes this week, Dan, and you have to agree with me, bro. Me and you, we both know we've had some there's just some spiritual stuff, man. It just seems like attack on all fronts. It doesn't matter, family or whatever the narrative is. We got so many things coming at us in all different directions. But, man, something happened to me last night. This is no joke. I'm kind of laughing about it now, but we had a very eventful evening. Let's just say that. I went to, we was invited to a Bible study, and we had Miss Tracy on here a couple Fridays ago. Everybody, if you know Miss Tracy, but we was going to Bible study, and man, I don't even know where to start. I'm kind of I don't even know how to explain it. I'm lucky. I shouldn't say lucky. I don't even believe in that. It's just, if it wasn't for the Father, I wouldn't be on this broadcast tonight. So those of you know that I don't drive. I don't see well. That's why I call visual disturbance. And real quick, we was on the road last night, and it was really late. My oldest daughter was driving. My wife was taking breaks and stuff, just exhausted. And this was late. We just got done coming back from Bible study. Super cool, super epic Bible study, talking about all kinds of different things. I made a comment. It's kind of strange, but I made a comment during the Bible study because it brought up, there was somebody in the Bible study talking about my, angelic, angels and God's angels and punching out, like punching the time clock, kind of thing. And I've used that analogy before because my uncle would tell me, Brian, you got hurt at your job, and it's time you're assigned, he's just cutting up with me. But angels of God have took a little break since you've been off work, so to speak. So, and then that brought up that topic during our Bible study last night. So I was like, when we, whenever I get to heaven and meet all these, I guess angelic beings, and what they've done and how many times they saved my hide from, being completely extinct off the face of the earth because the Father's had mercy on me, right? So I said last night, who knows? I might have to use the angels here soon. Who knows? You don't ever know what will happen. So no joke, guys. Man, driving back home. Well, I wasn't driving, but I was riding the passenger seat. Everybody's asleep. It's like 1 a.m. in the morning. No joke. It was a pretty good far distance between my home and to that Bible study. So, man, so we're driving, or my daughter's driving, and there's been some times in my life where you have peace, like you have peace of, you know it's the Father, His hand being brought upon you, and you know that you're just the peace that you just can't explain the type of peace that God can give, right?
Yeah.
So like literally we're driving down the road, and she's just driving, and no joke, guys, just cut it short. Right smack dab we was on the fast lane. No joke. Squared up, looking like it was a buck. That would be a large deer. Large. Setting, just laying. It looked like it fell asleep, like fell over. I've drove big trucks. I know all about it. When you slap a deer, it always goes sideways. It doesn't, square up perfectly right dab in the middle of the road. This was phenomenal. And, where I'm not as alert as I used to be as far as, speed, as far as visually and stuff. So I kind of reach over because I know there was this big, massive blob in front of us. And something said, don't do it. My daughter, she tries to go to the right. And then and later on, after we had a conversation, I'll tell you all a little bit about it here in a minute. She corrects and goes straight. And we hit that deer, guys. We hit it point blank, just dead center. And I'm not making this up, like all glory to the Father, but it felt like the van, and listen, this is a minivan. It felt like it picked up it picked up. And this thing was like, the width of the deer, because it's laying on its side. So, a big, massive deer. So anybody that's hunting in the chat, massive. I'm like these things are thick, right? You got a thick belly. I mean, a thick frame. And the deer, in Indian cultures, the deer bones are like daggone titanium. You know what I'm saying? These things are sharp. So basically, what happened? We have a clearance like this much on the bumper, and I'm not kidding you all. Boom! And I'm not even making this up. Like, it shoots out the back. I don't even know. I still can't even process how they even got like under the van. And then she is in shock, and I'm not really even saying anything. I told her to immediately pull over. We pull over. I get out of the van. Here I am with my cane and everything, and it's all dark. I didn't realize how close she just got over, and she pulled the emergency lights on, right? She didn't get far enough over. Here's semis going up and down the road. I'm trying to assess the damage. And dummy me gets down in the ground, and I'm like underneath the van praying. There's like skin, there's blood, there's flesh everywhere. It's smoking. And my wife's like, we got to get out of the van. It's on fire. And I said, girl, it's the flesh. It's smoking. And then all of a sudden I walk over and something grabbed a hold. I kid you all not. I felt a presence, and I'm not even, since it's Spiritual Warfare Friday, I figured I'd share this testimony. Something grabbed me and said, I got you. Don't worry about it. And a peace it was just, the only time I ever felt this was the day that I fell and had that horrible accident. And I was like, oh my goodness, Lord, you're here with me, right? So it's just one thing led to another. And you just really can't make this stuff up. So I'm sitting there, and there's semis going back and forth. And my wife's screaming at me because I didn't realize how close I was to getting annihilated, basically. So I'm trying to get up, move around, assess the damage. It's just everywhere, guys. I was and I was kind of just I'm in a good mood. This is great. I'm not getting too upset. And here it is. It's 1 something in the morning, and we're a half mile to the exit. So we managed to get in the car and everything in the van, and then we go up to the Walmart. It was a Walmart because I said, let's get into a well-lit place. And I kid you all not, short story here. I know we want to talk about giants, but I wanted to give a shout out to the Father for literally shielding us from this miraculous miracle. That's all I'm going to say. We got there. I kid you guys not. There's nothing wrong with my van. Zero. Like zero. All that's wrong is my mental standpoint and what happened. Like I'm still trying to figure out what the miraculousness of the Father done for us that night, last night. But there's flesh. I still got it's all over the van. We got fur hanging on the top. It's everywhere. It's so.
Get some hamburger under there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going on. It might have. I mean, and I don't know, guys. I just want to. I mean, you would think it would tore the grill off and the bumper and everything.
Yeah.
We would have complete catastrophic event as far as the vehicle being dismantled, and that was a 2.5 hours before we even got back home. And it's still this thing is still intact. Like everything is good. And I just want to give a shout out to the Lord. Like it was blowing my mind. I'm still blown away that this thing could even happen. So all glory to the Lord on that, the Father. So it was just something that you just can't make up, and you just have to say, we're not in control, guys. Like it was a divine intervention appointment. And I'm like, here I am with my little family. And I'm like, I've got this peace. There's something. Oh, and real quick to throw in there, when I was out there around the van, you could feel that presence, and you could hear footprint. Like I hear feet, like going around in the wood. I was like flashing my flashlight, trying to get my bearings. And luckily, the engine, everything, it finally stopped smoking because it was literally the deer. Well, and I couldn't even
cook
it. I can't even imagine. Like I just wanted to shout, give literally all glory to the Father, that the blessings upon blessings. So I'm just glad to be here. It could have been the ultimate. It could have been the other alternative. It could have flipped up in the windshield and took us all out, or it could have flipped us, and we did a big old roll in the middle. Went over into the valley, or any kind of constant. There could have been any kind. Yeah. So it's like mind blowing. Tires are still good. It's still. I was just praying. I was weeping. I was like, my goodness, Lord, what is going on? I'm like, I don't even know. I'm not worthy. I was like, thank you. And then like all I got now is just I've got carcass blood everywhere, and you can't wash it because it's like too cold outside. So I just want to share that before we get started this evening. So yeah, there we go. So it's like 10 minutes. So yeah, Dan,
that's pretty cool.
I mean, bro,
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, like just yeah, it's like normally because I've seen deers and like smaller thing, smaller than bucks. Destroy cars in general, you know what I mean? And that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's definitely some divine intervention.
Hey, man, well, I've seen deers flop off semis, man. It goes every which way. Like, I've seen all kinds of stuff happen, right? It's phenomenal. Like, it's phenomenal. Like, I cannot process. I still can't process. Even talking about it on the show here, I can't process it. So, anyways, I think you guys come here for what? Giants returning upon the earth? I think that's what y'all came for today, right? Oh, yeah, we got so much stuff to talk about, and and then I put a poll in the chat room too. I think one person said no, or not sure. Do you believe giants existed on Earth? 98% said yes, 1% said no, 1% said not sure. So, but it's crazy.
This book here, I mean, like John Hall actually had me get this book. It's Giants on Record. And it's got newspaper articles in there from all over the country, and you could actually go to the archives, go to New York Times, all the mainstream publishers that have been around for like hundreds of years, Providence Journal, all that, New York Times and all that, and you could actually go to the archives and see that journalists taking record of these things. You know what I mean? And it's not a bone or two. You know what I mean? It's not them finding one long bone and trying to figure out what it is. No, this is talk about large, full intact skeletons. I mean, 12, 13 feet tall, crazy stuff like that, man. And all over the country. In the Middle East, this is common knowledge in the Middle East, too. And the military, they ran into a giant out in the Middle East too. We should bring that up later again too.
Yeah.
But I mean, we did shows on giants before, but we got some other information we didn't get to talk about then. But
Absolutely.
This book here, it's all newspaper articles and you know what I mean, and real stuff. You know what I mean, and people can't say it's a conspiracy theory. And plus, on top of it, the Bible talks about them. The ancient cultures talk about them. Every single ancient culture, even the Native Americans, all talk about the giants. You know what I mean? So the thing is, like today's scientific world, it's just one guy told me, those are just some megalodons. Like, how does a megalodon get in the middle of the country? You know what I mean? They always got some cockamamie excuse other than what it is, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much inundated. There's inundated with information. And what blows my mind, and we'll talk about that a little bit tonight, when these things, there's names that the Indians named a tribe of people that would be like more dominant. They would come up with a name like, if it was something to do with the land formations, name them after a river and come up with a unique name to tie to like a great military power or a great mighty men of tribes. They would talk like that in that type of mindset. And it's just so interesting. You got to watch what you're looking at. It's just like, he's talking like 36 tribes of giants, right? There's 36 tribes of giants. There's 36 I think it's 36 in the book of the Bible. In the Old Testament. So it's like when you look into the Indian culture, they would name these beings. All these. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just laughing out loud.
Oh, Dan, Shorty. Bill. So, but yeah, so, and you're going to have to forgive me, Dan. I mean, so Spiritual Warfare Friday, literally, I'm going to have to walk away for just a split second, and you'll have to excuse me.
Yeah.
Something's went down. I kid you guys not. This is the most spiritual week I've ever had. And right now, there's like I'm being summoned. I have something to do real quick. It's an emergency. So just seriously, just hang tight. Forgive me, Dan.
Sure, yeah, no problem.
Everybody. I kid you all not. You just can't make this up. I'm talking about the van, doing like a daggone. I'm getting levitated off into the oblivion. And now we're talking about giants.
You better get going before your wife starts.
Yeah, now, yeah. What are you doing? I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So, all right, cool. So we'll be right back. So yeah, we talk about I don't know how many shows we did on giants, and they're known as Nephilim as well. And in the scriptures, they talk about these things. Genesis 6, and there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that. So talking about those days and the flood, there's a pinnacle there. So there were giants before and after the flood, and so we got tons of records on this stuff. And again, you can't escape this stuff. And the modern day society, which I think is a big joke. You know what I mean? This is common knowledge in the Middle East and Asia, parts of Asia anyway, little parts of Europe, and especially the African regions. People know about these things. They have tombs for these things and everything else, and whole shrines and everything else for these giants and everything else. And but you wouldn't even know that today, because in today's world they teach you, the dinosaurs roamed the earth millions of years ago, and some meteor come out of nowhere and killed them all, and then for somehow life just started up again after that. So, the evolution crap, you know what I mean? Because that's all it is crap. It's like evolution. And so the thing is, this stuff, why they don't bring it up, and people, I'm sure that's everybody's question, how come this is not taught in the schools? Well, basically, because it destroys the evolution doctrine. Plain and simple. They want to hide this stuff in Europe and the United States and everything, in Australia, because it dismantles the evolutionary doctrine. That's what it does. And it makes people ask more questions, and how do these people live so big, or whatever the case, and it opens the floodgate for more questions that they don't want to answer, because every one of these questions lead to have to actually talk about this, the Bible, and they don't want that, you know what I mean? And they want you to be docile, dumbed down, and make you feel like you're important and you're educated because you got an education from the mainstream schools. I call them the public indoctrination centers, and you got a diploma from there that makes you an expert in that garbage. That's all it does, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying people are stupid that go to school, you know what I mean? And I'm not discouraging people if they want to get a degree or whatever, that's fine, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean, that the giants, the whole narrative of it destroys the entire evolutionary doctrine. So in this book here, Giants on Record, I recommend people to buy it. And we can actually pull some stuff up on the internet too. I mean, archives all the way from the New York Times, the Boston Globe, all these old newspaper companies in the United States. And they were reporting stuff on the 1800s, 1900s, even newspapers that existed in the 1700s. They were reporting on the stuff all the time. So basically, when we were expanding out west, especially in the United States, expanding more out west, and people excavating land to build homes and all that stuff, and they're coming across, large skeletons. Again, it's not a bone or two, okay? We're talking about massive size skeletons. And, of course, the newspapers took interest in this, and right about the 1930s or 40s, that's when they started, the mainstream media stopped covering the stuff. You there?
I'm right here, Dave.
Oh, I was asking you if...
No, I just had popped in, and it, I apologize. What was your question? It literally... Yeah, go ahead, my friend.
No, I was saying basically how the newspapers were covering the stuff until the 1940s, 50s, something like that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then sometimes later on, like 1870s, 1880s. Yeah, I got a few 1890s.
And the mainstream media stopped covering this, in the mid-1900s, right? Because it was getting too much steam, and people wanted to know what these things about. And all the time, they were, the Smithsonian or some kind of a historical society that would confiscate the evidence. Then later on, people wanted to know information about it, file FOIA requests and all that. They always claim, they were lost, stolen, or damaged. It's the same story every time. You know what I mean? And the lost, stolen, damaged, and they don't have the evidence no more. So again, it it obliviates the evolutionary doctrine. That's why they don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And because right about the same time evolution was taking off here in the United States, that's when the mainstream media stopped covering finding these giant bones.
Absolutely. Well, I'm back, Dan.
Everything all right over there?
Yeah, I think so. The van didn't take off or anything by itself, so that's good.
It's got a hover conversion.
It's what'd you say? Did you say it's the DeLorean? The DeLorean minivan? I'm sorry, I wanted to apologize, everybody. It was going to be a DEFCON 5 plumbing issue, just all of a sudden out of the blue. So forgive me, everybody. And that wasn't an impression of my wife earlier. That sounded horrible. Yeah.
She's probably standing with a bat.
Yeah. Did you say what'd you say? No. She knows I'm just cutting up. But so, anyways, let's get back on the horse here. So, this is a really exciting one for me. I'm just literally thankful. Earlier, if you're just now just joining the broadcast, I'm really just thankful to be alive today. So, this is a really super. I love this topic. I could talk about this topic until 7 o'clock in the morning. But getting back to what Dan was saying, yes, Dan, tons of newspaper clippings. And here's the deal. It blows my mind. It blows my mind that I can go back and look at academia, what they was writing in the 70s stuff, and literally have documentation, tells you they could even go into the Aztec, into the Samaritans, everything, Aztec technology, all kinds of stuff that's in America. And people don't really realize that, right? So people think, well, how do you know? Well, the guys back then knew, right? And these pantheologists, these archaeologists, they would be collabing all the data together and say, look, here's Aztec technology, here's an Aztec looking pyramid, here's an Aztec, and they would talk about tunnel systems and everything. And now, like you said, it just seemed to me that it was one of the biggest cover-ups to mankind. So so he was talking about, I think the poll question was it giants in the earth?
Yep.
What'd you say? How was the poll question again? Giants in the earth? Something like, yeah. So here's a good question. So I did some show, a few weeks ago, I did a, giants in cryo sleep and all these different things. There's different avenues. There's all kinds of different things, tunnel systems, everything. There's just data, even if it might be just a little bit of truth, 2 or 3 or 5% truth, and the rest of it just be a bunch of crazy fluff, or is it true all the way, right? So you have to discern the spirits on anything, right? And I always go back to scripture and think about what are we really looking at? And then if you look at the 36 tribes and all that, and then you think about Raphaim, you think about the Nephilim, the Nephilim is before the flood, and then the Raphaim are after the flood, right? So if we really slow down and think about it, right, and you look at, is it what they say? Is it what they say it really is? So we all have been indoctrinated, to a certain, and I was talking to our brother Adam the other day. I was like, I don't know. I've always had this thing where I'm like, is there a different way? I think different. I don't know what it is. Yeah, it's just the way I'm geared. It's just the Father's. I'm not boasting. But I don't, if there's a way for an engine, for example, to run different, or if you could do something with like to transfer something else to power, right? Solar energy or whatever, you know, that's nothing new. Like people think hydrogen and stuff like the hydrogen motors, that stuff was way back, right? But if you can, and they use the same thing when they so-called come up with alien technology or whatever, or giant tech, and see, this all merges together. People are like, well, giants is one thing, you know, they're prehistoric men. That's what you'll hear in academia, or androgynous, like, or, you know, get into all the script, you know, they get into like this, what's the word? I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but they're mixing stuff and playing off each, and it's pretty much point blank simple. So I'm going to do a show on my channel here soon. I'll talk about it vaguely. There's some things that come out of the East Coast, right? The East Coast of Americas. So I want to bring this up real quick, Dan. So there was supposedly the science, I'll mention it in the show I do later on down the road, that would give information and then still go to war with the local Indians. Okay, so here's the thing. Some of the shamans and some of that passed down these traditions, they would talk about these giants that could, you know, they would do their own interpretation back then, right? So they would say they had the power of the spiritual world. They would have the power to open up like literally gates to a certain extent. And they would mention this is what was very interesting. They would talk about the stones. There's these stones, then they would refer to like circle formations. You would see like literally these giant beings, these giant men, and they said they had the ability to control the wind. They would talk about elements of the earth. And the only thing I can think of when I think about this is UFO. Like, and you associate Sasquatch and the UFO because a lot of people, you can look into all kinds of different avenues. There's people talking about this. Like if you see a Sasquatch, you see an orb. If you see, so it's just really interesting. And then you'll go back to look at a lot of academia, like a lot of literature. They'll say these giants taught Indians certain things. So it's like, well, what is it then? Is it the Indians teaching, you know, the giants, or the giants teaching the Indians? And then you'll turn around and say, well, there's these men that come from Europe, and they was teaching that, you know, like the Europeans would say, oh yeah, we come over here and taught the Indians how to speak different languages. Or then you do a little bit of kickback and you're like, well, I got to rewind here. There was giants that was very intelligent, off way beyond their understanding. So why is their books back in the day saying that this is this way? And now you go do any kind of searching is say it's folklore or some type of just make-believe story. So that right there is when I put the brakes on. And if I can go back and look at academia books that are like 1700s, and you're like, okay, let's correspond it with my data now. And then you look at way back and you go back to Genesis 6, and we're talking about Nephilim, Raphaim, and all that. What is and what isn't. So you go, and we've done a show together. What was it? I think we did that Nimrod show where I showed those portals, you know, those hieroglyphics and petroglyphs and stuff. What is that, right? What is that, guys? Is that some kind of just make-believe stuff? And then, like, see, there's a lot of misinformation. Like, the data is there, but it's just putting the puzzle pieces together. And I've tried my darndest to collaborate a bunch of stuff. But anyways, what do you think, Diane? Because there's a spiritual component, yes. But if the dating is this, like, for example, I know of some Indian mounds that was excavated, and when they went to get them, and they excavated the giants out of the mounds, this is in the 1900s, on my land where I'm at. Okay, military renaissance missions, all that. Okay, so they dig in them and say, well, they estimated between 500 and 800 years old. That's what the assumption of what they said. That was what that character that was 12 to 15 feet tall. So you get back with me when we're talking about evolution and all that goobly gop, and then you say, okay, why is there people back then saying this character that they dug up was a big man, but they say he was, you know, probably there for about 500 to 800 years old, or, you know, probably cumulative of being into that mound. So what do you think, Dan? So something's not right with the paradigm. Like something's not right with our realm of understanding. What do you think, Dan? Because it doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
So I don't know.
No, it does, and you're right. And I want to point out too, before we get going too. So you know, we bring this up a lot too. Genesis chapter 6, and it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, and the sons of God saw daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them as wives that he chose. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for he also is flesh, and his days will be 120 years. And there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came to the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, and became the mighty men which were all men of renown. So, you got Genesis 6 here, and you got Enoch 6, is almost verbatim. Enoch 6, we use R.H. Charles edition. Enoch, the first book of Enoch, which is the only book we actually study. But chapter 6, it says, it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied those days were born. Multiplied in that the days were born unto them beautiful daughters, beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels of the children of heaven saw them and lusted after them, and said to one another, come, let us choose wives and take them. I'm sorry, I can't read today. Let them choose us wives among the children of men, and begot us children. And there was a leader, some giants, and we could go on with that more. But you got Genesis 6 and Enoch chapter 6. And we could also get to other ancient texts too that completely state that the angels of God, right, the fallen angels, had sexual relations with the woman to bear them children. And I'm not going to get into any debates today with these Sethite people. It's clear as day. It's not even debatable. I mean, you got Genesis 6 and Enoch 6 and many other scriptures in all the ancient cultures all say the same thing. So it shouldn't even be debatable with this dumb Sethite crap. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. But and most of these things, the offspring, they were either giants or men of renown, which means people had super abilities. Possess super strength or whatever the case, and and that's what that's talking about. You know what I mean? So we have biblical and historic records that these things existed, and newspaper evidence too. We're gonna go through all this stuff too, but just gonna point out that giants are returning upon the earth. David Carrico gets into this a lot, so they are gonna be returned to the earth there, and these things are gonna be some nasty things. I tell you that right now. It's not gonna be nothing to glorify these things on.
So Dan, let's do. What do you want to do? You want to go? You want to go for the heavy sauce, or you want to go for like the quantum leap sauce? Like, do you want me to go ahead and jump into like what I was going to show with maps and stuff, or you want to go and start reading some more stuff to talk literally about the giant? But it's all going to be related to giants. But I'm pretty stoked about some things. I can just go ahead and start throwing some Google Earth stuff up if you want me to, because I'm just really stoked about it. I want to get it out, but it's up to you.
You go for it.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, so all right, everybody. So you just can't make this stuff up. So John Hall, shout out to him if he's watching. Bless you, my friend. He had me on a show on his channel one day, right? So we did this thing on Star Forts. Even this wasn't that long ago. I think it was like in May of this year. So no joke. All this stuff has been like collaborating in my brain, and I'm like, hey, and all the puzzle pieces are all plugging everything in. I'm like, man, I gotta save this just for a rainy day. Like whenever I'm gonna do some kind of giant show, I do quite a bit of, talk about giants, but this one I want to do it on Dan's show. So it's really just, I don't know, guys, it's really gonna trip me out. It trips me out. Like we're gonna talk about just. You just can't make this stuff. We're going to go from the whole Americas, East Coast, West Coast, and we're going to look at military bases. I'm going to try to bring. This is going to be a lot of what ifs, and it's just a theory. But when you look at all the data, it's kind of hard you can't really pull away from and say, okay, there's not something here. They're actually it's killer. So I talked a little bit about it vaguely on that show, but this one, it's going to be like, oh man, guys. So here we go. So I'm going to share some stuff on Google Earth. This is like, I just get super stoked about it. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I'm like getting tongue tied. I'm super stoked to be here because after last night, oh my goodness, it's just a blessing to be here tonight. I'm serious. So let's just rock this thing, Dan. All right. So I'm going to share my Google Earth page. Let me know if it pops up. So, what you're seeing here, everybody, is literally, so I look at all avenues of everything. So you're looking at data with these little blue tacks, and there's green and orange and everything. It's literally referencing Sasquatch. Okay. I know we're it all ties in, giants and all this stuff. I think a lot of it is misinterpreted. When you see a 12-footer hairy man, that would still be considered a giant. So this stuff, if you look at it, if you can see it on the screen there, if you just take a gander at what we're looking at here, when I started corresponding and putting all this data together, it just blew my mind. So like all this East Coast, it's inundated in my area, Indiana. I mean, look, even up here, Rhode Island. I mean, you got quite a bit of things. I'll zoom in, but you'll see the timestamps. These are all timestamp dates. Yeah. These are the encounters. This data, I think it goes all the way to 2016. I can't get anything newer, forgive me, you all, but this data is like all these sightings. You go up here out toward DC Cooper's area up in this way, and I know Crystal Gross and all them living up in this area. And it's blowing my mind how much is like inundated here. It's just, I mean, come on, in Washington, look at all this stuff. I mean, I've always said it, guys. There's something about that area and something to do if you get into California with Tartaria and all these different things. So when you look at that and you think about star forts and everything, and you look, okay, there's only one star fort up in this vicinity of the Americas here. But what I'm getting at, I'm going to show you guys something. So let's just think this is going to be a what if. Okay. So what if these giants that come in and out of the earth? Okay. So just as a hypothetical, it's hypothetical in my brain. I'm just throwing out stuff here. What if there's a gateway system? I mentioned this on Dan's show before, Dan, the Nimrod show. I think that's one of what we did it on. And portals opening up, and the Indians was depicting it on the carvings of the walls and all in the cave systems. Like it's hiding in the caves. So guys, I'm sorry, I've got data. The Indians started getting fed up. They started getting fed up with this stuff. He's like, man, the man was like, guys, what's going on? They're taking our women and children. What the heck is going on? And you can go look at all kinds of data and find this. Like I have books. It talks about they had to go to war with them. So this is okay. So think about it. Indian mounds everywhere, the biggest cover up and all get out when it comes to this stuff. And it really reminds you of Genesis 6 verse 4. They took wives as they chose. So it's the same narrative, nothing new under the sun. And if you're looking at this narrative, so Dan, if you have that slide, pop it up, interrupt my stop sharing. If it, I want to correspond because I sent the ones with the missing 411 people. So Dan's gonna pop it up. If you can't, I can pull it up on mine.
Oh, you got it here.
Okay, so Dan's got it's a rough illustration, and it's kind of a mapping of missing 411 people. I have this theory, right? So all up in the Appalachian Mountains, all these national parks, it's always something to that effect that these missing 411 people would just go up missing. But why do I have a ton of substantial data? And you can go way back. You can look in Arizona. You can look at all these different places of people. You can look at the Incas. You can look at the Mayans, all this stuff, the Aztec, everybody. There would be these things come through like a portal. They would swivel like a spiral, and they would take people. So why is there anything different now? So is it like, okay, do we just not think about that data now and just throw it out? So I was like, all right, so cool. Let's just correspond what I've got going on. So you got these sightings on my Google Earth that I had pinpointed with the Sasquatch. If you correspond it with the missing 411, if you correspond it with the tunnel systems, all these DUMBs that you hear about, what if it's just a what if all this ties in to like this one big portal gate system, which I have the theory that the national parks, because everything that I'm setting on that I don't even really I don't even expose it on any kind. I don't even broadcast anything. I kind of keep it all. There's certain things I just won't talk about because I just think it's such a big controversial thing, and I just don't want to. I'm just kind of setting on some stuff and let the dust collect on the shelf. So when you're looking at this, is it too hard to think? So I'm going to show you some more stuff that's really going to be killer. So it's going to involve all this other stuff. So we got the missing 411, we got the tunnel systems, and then Dan, if you don't care to kick me back over to my screen share because I'm going to show you something.
Good.
So let me know when it pops. Okay, cool. So we got all this stuff inundated with all this data, and it's hard. I can't remove the when it zooms in. I can't remove all the dates but if I can zoom out a little bit from here, it does. Just think about this. We got star forts all up and down the East Coast, right? And people are like, well, that's just art and that's just a fortification. Okay, what are you fighting from? Yes, I understand the French. I can go back in the 1300s. I can go look at the data and say, okay, but here's the other thing that kicks me in the side. There's data that says, well, there was star forts before, and we just try to re-engineer it, and we let the other one go into ruins, and we rebuilt them. So then I'm like, well, how the heck did it take, 200 to 300 years to build a fort? And I'm like, no, come on. You just say establish, put a plaque up and say, hey, we've established this to be ours. Like we took it to, it's the same thing when the Indians had a land for thousands of years. Somebody took the land. Okay. It's the same concept. We just slap up a little bit of a sign and a signature and say, hey, this is mine. That's not how we roll. You're not supposed to be stealing. But anyways, let me just go on. So you got all the indication. This is all popping up star forts. Okay. You got Bermuda Triangle out here. Star forts all up and down the East Coast, Dan. There's a bunch up your way too, my friend.
Oh yeah.
And star forts all up and down here, bro. So, and you got one up here at the Fort Stevens, right? So Fort Stevens, you've got all this stuff of Sasquatch sightings and everything. This national forest is out of the crazy. And this is Fort Union. So you got Fort Union out here in New Mexico. All this stuff you got out here, all up in this area. You got the Ozarks. I mean, there's so much stuff. There's so much land to cover. I could be here all night. So here's it's going to get real crazy, guys. So, and I always mess up on the words, so just hear me out. So there's all this data, and I'm going to correspond it. And there's something I can't do. I can't mirror this other data on top of the Google Earth. So I'm going to have to go to some other references, but just bear with me. So just keep this in mind. Look at the missing 411. And look at really what's going on. Is it a portal gate system is what I'm saying. Is there something here that's significant? So if you look, and here I wanted to correspond and say, look, is the giants in the earth in those days? And also after that, the Bible speaks of this. So, well, if we're looking at it with the eyes to see and say, hey, hang on a minute. Why is Brian telling me, well, heck, why did the people, forgive me, why did somebody have in academia a long way back, a couple hundred years ago, say, this character that comes from this mound is 500 to, roughly 500 to 800 years from the time. So if you look 1900s, go back 1200, and you can find all kinds of different stuff. Tracy just did a show the other night about sirens, right? And all the satires and everything. They was hunting them in the 1800s. So where's the data, Dan? I mean, come on. There's something very nefarious going on, and somebody's lying. So I'm gonna stop presentating this, and I'll what's the presentating? Man, I must have got hit by that deer. So anyway, but presentation. I'm gonna stop I can't stop sharing the screen here. Yeah, I know it was a long night. So I want you all to just think about this for a minute. Oh, real quick too. Oh yeah, I'm gonna mention this before I get off and stop sharing. So no joke. I wish I had this whenever I did that show with John. So. I was talking about military Renaissance missions, right, Dan?
Yep.
So you got all this military. Let me pull it up here if I can find it real quick. Let me see. It's right here. So here we go. All these red dots. Let me turn off the. I'll turn off the star forts. It makes it easier, and I'll turn off all the stuff that I think it could be a mixed bag of giants. So look at this, guys. Look at all the red dots. It's hard to all these red dots, right? Every single one of those are a military place. Okay, tons of places and military facilities, right? So, is it too much to ask that there's something going on? I personally believe that they have, and lo and behold, I have the data to back it up. There's all kinds of particle accelerators. If you don't know what a particle accelerator is, just start with CERN and think about the Hadron Collider. Okay, so particle accelerators, Dan, have been existing for a long time. It doesn't matter what people say and say, well, it was just here just about the last 30 years. No, it was way beyond that. So what do you, I hope I'm not talking too fast. I'm getting in that, Boomhauer mode, guys, but I hope y'all understand this and I hope it makes sense, Dan, but I'm trying to correspond the data and really show it. So missing 411 people, Sasquatch, we're talking about we can go in, and then we're getting to the UFO phenomenon. I know this is a giants, but what I'm saying, the giants that you keep reading about giants and Sasquatch, they correspond with UFO activity. It's blowing my mind. So there's all this stuff. So military Renaissance missions, and then why in the world let me stop sharing this one. Why in the world do you have, like, for example, let me pop this one up. This is a UFO sightings map. It's pretty up to date. Let me see if I can even pop it up and share it. It's kind of a little bit rough. It's a little bit rough software, but just bear with me. This one is crazy, guys. So let me see here. Okay, so all the thermal imagery and all that, right? So this is America. So obviously, yeah, well, reason it blurred out. Okay, so you have all these dots, all this UFO phenomenon come out of the ocean, et cetera, right? It's a little messed up, but it's just a little bit messed up. Forgive me, you all, but it's all these hot zones, right? So all this heat, just look at this heating imagery, right? So what is it too much to ask? I mean, am I just making up something? Could I say it's all figurative? I'm really not. I'm just looking at it for a standpoint of research purposes. So you got all this thermal energy. I mean, literally look at all this. This whole area is inundated with UFO. And then here's Mexico, right? So that corresponds with that Fort Union. And then you have Fort Stevens up here, and it literally matches the Sasquatch, the military bases, the 411 missing. And I haven't even showed you guys the other one, but I'm going to wait and let Dan speak. What do you think, Dan? Is it too overwhelming, guys? Is it too much? If it is,
it's pretty cool because it shows different aspects and correlations. So I think it's pretty awesome. And, it's not a coincidence that all the hot zones and, the most abduction zones are all in the same area,
Mm-hmm. And you got to think about it. So go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
Oh, they're missing 411 people. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah.
How many people go missing a day? It's not even counting kids, man. And most people are not even found again.
Yeah. And well, here's the thing. So, okay. So what is it? So I think it's Mayans. It might be Mayans. Forgive me if I'm wrong. And the same thing happened to, I think it might be the Shawnee Indians out in Arizona. Forgive me, I might be wrong on the tribe. But the same thing happened to Mayans. I think it was the last civilization of Mayans, one of the pyramids, the whole village went up. It just vanished, dude. Like, so what is that? Like, I'm talking like completely disappeared. There was nothing to a point of bodies or anything. So what is going on here? Is it something nefarious? Is it something so like, is it just so easy just to think of it like this? I mean, it's just how my mind thinks. So this is just my perspective. Take it for what it is. And so you got the UFO phenomenon, you got the military bases, all this stuff. So here's the one that just kicks me in the side, man. We mentioned this on a show the other day, or about a few weeks back, right? So I'm going to try to see if I can screen share this with it zooming in, and maybe it'll pop up. I hope it will. So to correspond all those stuff that I showed you guys, the 411, Bigfoot, all this stuff, and I mean, I forgot to mention I could have shared mounds and we could really kill it, but I'm trying to, I mean, it's a lot to take in. So military reconnaissance missions and all this stuff. So all these military bases, it's so strange to me. So get this, guys. So I was talking about particle accelerators, right? So let's get into it. Let me see if I can share it. If I can't, I'll pray that I can get it to work. So get this. So let me know if it pops up, Dan.
Yep.
It should be. Yeah. So, yeah. Pop me up there if you can. So,
it's a lot of popping.
There's a lot of popping. Yeah. I know. So, this is a PDF file that I have, and it talks about all kinds of different accelerators. So we're talking about particle accelerators, and it's a big, wide variety. So if we look, and I know it's really small, probably. Can you see it good, Dan? If you can't, that's understandable. I'll try to zoom it in.
Up a little, yeah.
I'm going to zoom it up, my friend. So we got electrostatic, we got synchrotron, and we got this spallation. I think that's how you say it. I always butchered to death. But if you zoom in onto North America, what do you see? It's it literally looks very corresponding to all the military bases. Yeah. You see what I'm saying, Dan? The correlation to kind of bring it all into perspective for the sake of the broadcast. I hope it makes sense. I'm just glad to be alive, guys, after yesterday. So if I'm rambling on too fast, you all tell me to slow my roll. So, but if you look over here, right, if you go over here, so what do we got here? We have all these particle accelerators, all this stuff. We got CERN over here. We got everything, right? So when you look at this, what do you see, Dan? I mean, come on. If you look at all that right there, Kiev, Crimea, all that, okay, we could go on a big tangent over this. So Star Fort's inundated with this area. So what is it too much to ask to look at the data for what I'm presenting? Is it too much? I mean, maybe. So I'm going to tell you all something that come across about a month ago, and I've been wanting to talk about it on the show. So I mentioned a thing a minute ago, and I was like, man, I got to mention this in the show, and I literally just incorporated it. And it's spallation. It's spallation neutron sources. Spallation. I always butcher that name for some reason. Spallation. So get this, guys. No joke. Huh?
Word of the day, spallation.
Word spallation. So this is no joke. So I look and I'll go to spallation. So there's a neutron science place. It's a spallation neuron source. There's a facility, right? So let me zoom in, Dan. If it's still if it's not up, let me know. I think I gave you did I give you the article? Yeah, I gave you the article, the Oak Ridge National Laboratory.
Yeah.
Go pop that one up on the screen for me instead of let me share it, and I'll talk about it. If that's cool with you.
Which one was the first one?
The Oak Ridge, I think it's the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. If it's not, I can pop it up. Yeah. So if you can't find it, Dan, I can pop it back up. I think it was coming in okay on my end earlier, but I can share it again. That ain't no big deal.
Yeah. No.
Just let me share it again. It's all good. No problem. No problem, Dan. We are doing okay. So I'm back up, Dan. I got it. So how you say it, Dan? Word of the day? Splantation. There you go. Almost messed up myself. So get this, Dan. I know I'm putting you to sleep over there. Splantation. So stay with me, guys. So no joke. This facility, this is blowing my mind. This is just like, this is the kind of stuff I just love. So I just get into it. I start digging. I'm thinking, man, my brain, what are you going, like, Father, what are you going to show me? Let's just crack off and see where, let's see where this is going to lead. So I've had this article for a long time, but just check this out. Splantation, and it updates periodically, but anyway, splantation, neurons. So produces neutrons with accelerator-based system that delivers short microsecond proton pulses to a steel target field. Now listen to this. It's highlighted here. Field. This is going to be crazy, Dan. I mean, you mentioned this on a Spiritual Warfare Friday one day. Targeted field with liquid mercury through a process called splantation. Oh man, y'all don't even know where I'm going. I'm getting all tore up over here. I'm thinking about flying in the air in a minivan. So if you're just now tuning in the broadcast, I had me and my family about perished because there was a deer and it decided to hit my van at 70 plus miles an hour, and the Father shielded us all. So praise God. So this splantation neutron source, this facility, right? So listen to it. So it says those neutrons are the direct toward the state-of-the-art instruments that provide a variety of capabilities of researchers across a broad range of disciplines, such as physics, chemistry, biology, and material science. So if I just slow down for a minute and say, okay, what's Brian's point? All right, I'm getting ready to show it. It's killer. This come up about a month ago. Well, I think this came out in September. I hope you can still see it. Can you still see it?
Yep.
The page? Okay. We're speaking about Mayans, right? No, it's ancient technology. Ancient Mayan cities are heavily contaminated with mercury. What? Remember that, Dan? I kind of mentioned it vaguely, I think.
Yep.
I think I was rambling on that one night. Ancient Mayan cities are heavily contaminated with mercury. Come on. Some Mayans appear to be fond of the toxic substance. What? And then okay, so I go back to this plantation, this accelerator, right? So you look at that and you're like, what is going on in my world, Lord? Like plantation, chemistry, physics, biologic, neutrons, all this stuff, right? And it literally says right here, steel targeted field with liquid mercury through a process called splantation. I was like, okay, we got electrostatic, synchronotron light sources, like that's still a particle accelerator, all these accelerators, right?
Yep.
We have all these pinpoints of entry, giants, everything, portals, everything. We could go and look at it. We could, this is all, it all corresponds. Military bases all pinpoint to it's either around a national park or whatever to that effect. It's blowing my mind, guys. So whenever I thought about that, I was like, okay, splantation, there's nothing new under the sun, splantation accelerator. Are we really am I going to be that ignorant to say, okay, so this is new? So plantation neutron source, this so-called accelerator place, facility, doing all this manipulation of whatever physics and stuff. Am I really going to say proton so we're going to talk about steel target filled with liquid mercury. Then this thing pops off like last month or two, heavy mercury in ancient Mayan cities are heavily contaminated with mercury. So you mean to tell me after all these years and you're just now found in strong levels of, it literally says some ancient Mayan cities have dangerous high levels of mercury pollution. So we're going to have pollution. Okay. So there's a lot of what ifs here, but I wanted to correlate and bring this all in. I was just really excited to bring this out. So my point, Dan, is it gateways. So the Mayans down there drinking it like it's some type of, they drinking it like it's a, soda pop over there, apparently back in the day. Cause apparently according to academia, some Mayans appear to be fond of the toxic substance. So I ain't gonna lie to you. Apparently to academia today, if you take a little bit of mercury, you ain't gonna cruise it up and down the road either, like that old country song. You're gonna be laying on your back. Okay. So apparently whatever the Mayans was cracking off, whatever type of, if they love mercury so much, why is there a large amount of mercury in this plant? So let's think about this plantation place. So then I'm going to get back to the whole narrative. What is going on, Dan? So just stay with me. So this is a PDF file, a particle accelerator. It tells a historical overview. It talks about, it's kind of a dumbed down version, but it's just interesting. It talks about questions, answers, it just talks about it gets into some deep stuff here, right? How accelerators work, energy fields, all this stuff, electromagnetic waves. It goes into X-rays and stuff like that. But what I want to bring in, when you're looking into mathematical equations, they talk about this being used back in 1895, right? Yep. So it's kind of interesting, Dan. All this information, it just seems like a lot of things that went on in the 1800s, okay? It's just crazy, bro, right? And I wanted to share this because I'm looking at this radiograph, all these different things, electrostatic accelerators. So is it too much to ask? Because if you look at this, there's nothing new under the sun. Is it just man's interpretation? Like, is it man just saying, okay, I'm going to these ancient sites and tapping into what I can understand with the materials of the earth that I can actually come up across? Like they have to use all these antennas, all this. It's, in my opinion, it's crap technology compared to what, if the Mayans and everybody had this other stuff, if we're looking at gate systems and portal systems, you can go look through all kinds of architect standpoint with the petroglyphs, hieroglyphics, and they'll show you. Yeah. So what is it, Dan? What do you think, bro? Well, I'm going to stop talking and let you chat. What do you think? I know it's a lot to take in. I'm throwing some heavy sauce tonight. So yeah, I hope everybody's enjoying the heavy sauce, boy.
Yeah,
but
I'm just like fascinated, and I was like, well, because like it's interesting stuff. And while you talk about that, I dug up some newspaper articles too. Because like you understand these things, guys. Like these they used to have these temples and everything, and you could also see the mud. What are those things called? The mud fossils.
Yeah, mud fossils, mud floods too. Also, yeah.
But I just want to put this up too. When we talked about them earlier, this was New York Times, May 4th, 1908, right? And there's Boston, May 3rd. Charles Clapp, who recently returned from Mexico, where he has been in charge of the Thomas W. Lawson's mining interest, and has called the attention of Professor Agassiz to a remarkably discovery made by him. He found in Mexico, right? Check this out. And like I said, it's not one bone or whatever. Check this out. He found in Mexico a cave containing some 200 skeletons of men, each above 8 feet tall. 200, you know what I mean? Over 200 of these things, 8 feet tall and more. The cave was identified as a burial place of a race of giants who intimidated the Aztecs. So you just talk about Aztecs. There you go. That's
Absolutely,
right there.
And see, that's what I'm saying. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
It's funny because as you bring up the Aztec thing, I'm like, wow, this fits perfect because
that's like dead on, man.
And the cave was evidently the burial place of a race of giants who, again, from the Aztecs. And Mr. Clapp arranged the bones of one of these skeletons 8 feet 11 inches tall, and the femur reached up to his thigh, and the molars were big enough to crack a coconut. So I don't know, molars at teeth.
Yeah.
And the head measured 18 inches from the front to the back. And a lot of these articles, too, will mention, too, that a lot of these things had 2 rows of teeth.
Absolutely.
2 on the bottom, 2 on the top, and 6 fingers and 6 toes, in each hand and foot. You know what I mean? So, it's kind of crazy, man. And, like I said before, it's like you could find tons of these. I mean, like, and, you can't dismiss these things. And I got to a debate with this evolutionist. He's on the History Channel. I forgot the guy's name. He's like, he held up a megalodon bone. He goes, look at that. What is that? He goes, somebody could easily misinterpret this for a human finger of a giant. And I'm like, no. And I showed them this, and they couldn't, they started laughing at it like it was fake. Mm-hmm. I'm like, at the time I printed a bunch of them out for the debate. I had an envelope full of real articles, New York Times, Boston Globe, all this stuff. Top newspaper companies that print this stuff, you know what I mean? And it's still in the archives today, you know what I mean? And it's all over the place. I mean, you got race of giants, that all over the place. You know what I mean? There's all these newspaper articles, and I mean, I could go on all day with the newspaper articles, but it's kind of funny back.
No, I mean, no, please do. Please, Dan, keep going, man. Because I got a bunch of stuff, but please, I love it, man. Keep going. For real.
It's kind of funny that cave in Mexico, though. You talk about the Aztecs, whatever, and that it's kind of funny how I brought that up at the same time there.
Absolutely. We wasn't even planning that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, man, like I'm telling you.
Man.
Yeah, like I'm telling you, Dan, the correlation of it, it's just too much. They listen, the way the pyramids are made, the way all the architect work, the way the giant narrative, the whole ball of wax, man. There's data like where I've read giant men, but then also giant lizard men come out of a river. And that's in America. That's where the natives say that they originated from. What are you talking about, right? So is it gates? It has to be. There has to be some correlation with it because it's all to do with the Orphana Ifa, the Vinama, the whole thing. It has to be. And then what's so blowing my brain is mercury. It's an element. And then you have, thermostats, all this stuff. Back in the day, I think they still use them in some shape or form with AVAC and all in the HVAC and all that stuff with the cooling and everything. And it's just insane, right? So all this technology, everything is like small little elements here and there, little nidbits, nuggets everywhere, right? But like, man, I'm telling you, they knew it, man. They knew that they was 5'11", 6 foot tall. Yep. They knew they had, small, and then they was like these Gilberine gigantic men. It's right here, bro. There's nothing else you can say. It's right there. And then that's why I'm saying with the Kandahar giant, I'm telling you all, that guy had not been there that long. And I think military operation facility was in, there's all kinds. We can go look at it right now. Military facilities out that way. They pegged it. Bam, it popped up. Energy source you've heard me talk about. Same concept. But back then, let me tell you something. The shamans, all these guys was like, we're going to have to go to war. We got people taking our children and our women, and they're like 8 foot, 9 feet. And that's what I'm saying. I've got the data. 9 feet. It's crazy, bro.
Maple Creek, Wisconsin, and December 19th, 1897, New York Times reporting this. One of the three recently discovered, by the way, discovered mounds in the town. They had been opened, and they found a skeleton of a man of gigantic size, and the bones measured from head to toe over 9 feet tall. And it talks about the skull, too. The skull was large, like the size in plus half of a regular, another 1.5 size of a human skull. It's gigantic. You know what I mean? I think that's what it says. It's hard to read that print there. But yeah, you talk about the mountains and everything else too, and it's like and there was another one in there from 6 to 8 feet tall, and varies from 6 to 8 feet in width. That's the mountain. I'm sorry. So, all right. So this guy here is over 9 feet tall, and you got to remember too, right? That's just the bones. Okay, we're not talking about the flesh. You should probably add another foot because put the flesh in there and everything else. So you're looking at these almost a 10-foot tall massive skeleton. And there's some pictures here of one. You know what I mean? They got these skeletons in the museums.
Absolutely, Dan. Absolutely. Whenever around my area, there was a gentleman. This was written down in the 1800s. They found a skeleton. It would literally the head of the giant. It was like a helmet to this man. The man that they was referring to was a 6'4" individual, not the giant, but the man. Whoa. He was 6'4". The giant's head, the helmet. It was like it literally. They referred it to as a helmet. Would flesh in the whole frame. So you got to think about his shoulders and everything. The head of the giant would cover and go over top of the man's body and all. Whoa. Think about the width. It's not, this is when you get into like Greek mythology, all these different things. You see like the Cyclops, and they're like gigantic titans. Their shoulders are like massively abnormal shape. And then you got like their different types of structures ahead, but they are big in stature. And the double rows of teeth, all that goes along around here with redhead giants. I mean, there's nothing really to, people think, you get into the Seth and all that, and they say, well, it's the sons of Seth. Well, we've done shows and talked about that till we're blue in the face, bro. But like, what's going on here? Can anybody tell me, is it, I hate to say it, but there is a problem with information, people just being so consumed with what, like, for example, if somebody with a high, like a high degree of stature and they're educated or whatever, they believe it, but they won't. If there's data that goes back 200 or 300 years, why can't we read that? And it just blows my mind. It's so baffling to me. Oh, it is so baffling.
And people say, well, where's the evidence? Like, oh, he's right. How come the Smithsonian ain't talk about it? Well, the Smithsonian was in the fire. I got an article here. I got scrubbed from most mainstream sites. But it's the Smithsonian in midst of destruction of thousands of giant human skeletons in the early 1900s. And it was a U.S. Supreme Court ruling has forced the Smithsonian Institute to release classified papers dating from the early 1900s that proves the organization was involved in major historical cover-up of evidence showing giant human remains and tens of thousands have been uncovered all across the United States in order to be destroyed at high-level administrators to protect mainstream chronology of human evolution at the time. So, yeah, this is saying the same thing. Like somebody stole. Like, it's to protect the evolution stuff, you know what I mean? So, these bones, and there's a picture. Now, granted, guys, there's pictures out there that are fake. We're not saying they're not. Some people just make a Photoshop, obviously. But things like this, they're not fake, you know what I mean? And there's tons of articles out there. And again, the Smithsonian was on the fire. This was all over the media. And for some reason, it all got scrubbed. I don't know who stepped in. Somebody big must have stepped in to stop that. But, yeah. And I'll pull up in a minute as soon as Brian's trying to talk about right here in Rhode Island. The same thing happened. Providence Journal in Cumberland, Rhode Island. They archived having found this guy who was over 8 feet tall, I believe, Benjamin Buckland, and the skull was 2 rows of teeth. You know what I mean? And they went to go examine the evidence, and I think the Historical Society claimed, got lost or stolen. It's the same old lies every time. You know what I mean? It's either Smithsonian or the Historical Society, some government agency comes in, takes the evidence, and all of a sudden it's never seen again. Then they can play plausible deniability after that, and it's sickening. You got the same book, huh?
Well, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. It's right here. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I will tell you this, though. This one's, I have that slide I sent you. It was the one with the Moundville. I think it was Moundville, Alabama, I think. I want to share something real quick, Dan, and get your take on it. I think it was it Moundville? Let me see. Let me see if it's the right one. Forgive me. Forgive me, Dan. The one with the all CNI, it was the Moundville Archaeology Park with this rattlesnake disc. That's what they call it. You can pop it up there when you can. Chance it. I threw so much at you.
My bad. Let me get that.
No, it's my fault, Dan. I should have had it together a little bit quicker than what I did for you, my friend. But I'm over here dodging. I'm over here trying to, pray that my van doesn't fly off into oblivion last night. So,
was it a link you sent?
Yeah, it was just a photo with the Moundville Archaeology Park with the rattlesnake disc.
What's the name
I think it was
title?
TripAdvisor. Believe it or not, TripAdvisor is the website. No joke.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. So pop it up on the screen for me. So this bad boy. No, I'm just kidding. I shouldn't say that. But no, this lovely disc here, right? So apparently this was found in a mound. So what baffles me, Dan, is one moment. I've lost my slides too. What baffles me, forgive me, guys. Well, I can go. I know exactly what it is. This was found in Moundville, Alabama. I think that's where it was at. So what baffles me is it literally is so significant to yeah, there you go. Thank you, Dan. I know it was a little bit of delay, but all seeing eye, all this symbolism. I know the picture's hard to see. Forgive me, guys, but there's a serpent involved with it, right? So I found what's so interesting. A lot of these artifacts are found, and this one was also with a giant man. And what blows my mind, this one was a particular awesome find. Is like it's always the serpent looking like a serpentine or a serpent or Ouroboros, kind of thing. And what I've found, I don't know much about this one, but I know the ones I found in my area, and there's some in like Ohio, Virginia, all in the Ohio Valley, where they literally there's no joke. You can look this up. I don't have the imagery in front of me, but I want to talk about this one because this one's fairly new to me, and I've known about it a little bit, but I don't know much about it. But it's always a snake symbolism. And it goes back to all kinds of, everybody's probably watching this show knows a lot about serpents and stuff like that you see the imagery and all the stuff. We can talk about the serpent mound and all that in Ohio. But this particular one, and there's some that I found that are the same replica, and they're found in 3 different states. And it's like a serpent with the face of like a man or a woman. It looks like a depiction of a man, but some people are up to debate, but I'm pretty sure it's a man. And it looks like Gemini, like they're dualism. They're looking at each other. And it literally says like like they've translated. It took for many years for me to like figure this out. They translated that it's something to do with the connection to the underworld. Like they had to bury this giant with this tablet, and it literally means like feathered serpent. And I thought it was interesting. Like you got the feathered serpent that I think it's feathered serpent, right, Dan? That America used to be called a long time ago. And I think on the lines of that, I think it's in. Yeah. And I thought it was interesting that they was talking about like it also meant resurrection with the tablets. And I thought it was really, really interesting that there was 3 of them that they found. They say there's more, but it's all up and down, in the Appalachian Mountains, and all these there's more tablets, and it all has to do with like, resurrection or some kind of spiritual application to go connect to a different world. And it's like, what? And I don't know, guys. It's just, I wanted to bring that one up because it reminded me of the all-seeing eye. It reminded me of palm worship and stuff in the Moundville, Alabama. I'm trying to find the date on it. I had it, but I've lost all my bearings here, guys. So forgive me. It's like, wow. Oh, yeah, no, it's forgive me. It might be Moundville, West Virginia. Is it Moundville? Did I get it wrong? I'm not sure. There is a Moundville, Alabama. I did drop the ball on that one, Dan, but that's okay. I wanted to bring that up though because the reason why I brought it up is because there's so many. What's going on with that? Why is there an artifact with a lovely carved insignia to do a serpent worship or any kind of thing like that? And what was their? Why did they assume that it was going to be a resurrection thing? What is that? Like, what kind of ability? What did these characters know to literally say, okay, let's bury it with this character, 12-footer, 15-foot man? What was they planning? A futuristic event, or is it just something for like a symbolism? Is it just like a symbol, just to say that they reached to the heavens or something, or the underworld? I mean, what is that, Dan? What do you think? It's crazy, man.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Probably rituals of course. I mean, because these people.
Yeah.
And I found that article too about the one in Rhode Island here.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Yeah,
please.
No, this was they actually have a society after him called the Buckland Society. So the Buckland family, whatever the case. But this was called Nine Men's Misery. Me and my brother did a little filming up here. We're gonna make a little documentary soon. Oh, probably in the spring when the weather gets better. But this is called King Philip's, from King Philip's War there. So that's a monument where on a giant mound of all places, right? A giant mound of where these bodies were buried, right? So Providence Journal's James Whitney from Wednesday, January 20th of 1886 says, a strange incident occurred in relation to the nine men's grave. It was either during or shortly after the Revolutionary War. Some Providence gentlemen led, is said that by Dr. Bowen, went up to the place to dug open the grave and already stretched out three of the skeletons upon the ground, and they were discovered when the Cumberland people found out that this is going on. A huge cry being raised, so people were upset about this. Digging up graves, yeah. And farmers assembling from all the region around. So I'm gonna get to the meat and potatoes place. So anyway. The one fact that settled the sentiment there, that the identity of the men themselves were buried, and one skeleton dug up was an extraordinary size, and by the fact that him having a double set of teeth was recognized that of Benjamin Buckland of Rehoboth. It was assured that the men were both from the colonies of the Providence. So this is during the King Philip War. It's like pre-revolutionary, by the way. So. Because what happened was the King Philip War. Long story short, with this, it's like basically there was during the King Philip War when you had English and then the natives going at it. You know what I mean? So there was a lot more going on there. What they tell you. I mean, there was giants involved and stuff too. The Indians talk about this all the time. The giants involved in these wars and everything else. And the Indians went to war with these giants too. Right here in North America.
Wow.
So basically, they ambushed this Nephilim and a couple of the troops because they went and slaughtered a bunch of women and children. So this monument here, that's where they ambushed. And the natives ambushed them in Cumberland, Rhode Island, because what they did was in Central Falls, Rhode Island, which is a city over, they massacred a bunch of women and children. So out of retribution, the Indians tracked them down up into Cumberland, ambushed them in this spot here, and killed the 9 men there. Of course, they put a monument up for them and not for the Native Americans. You know what I mean? Go figure, right? But yeah, and that's where.
Dan.
But a lot of the colony wars and all that had to do with. Not Star Wars either. Colony wars had to do with a lot of these giants involved with it as well. And the giants, the Indians, speaking of the Indians, I'm a Native American, so I can say Indian all I want. I know some people say, oh, no, they're indigenous people. No, they're Indians. Okay, I'll call them exactly that because I am on my mom's side. So anyway, where this came from, I know you guys see me display this a million times already, but when they held your hand up to say hi, it wasn't saying hi. I mean, the how. It wasn't saying hi. It was basically had you hold your hand up if you were a stranger, especially if somebody of magnificent size. What they would do is they count your fingers and make sure you didn't have 6, because they called them the star people. You know what I mean? 6 toes on each foot, 5 fingers on each hand. You know what I mean? So double rows of teeth and all that. So if some stranger held up his hand and they had 6 fingers, you know what I mean? Yeah, be a little problem going on there. So these
little tag and bag, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you look into early American history, man, even the founding fathers talk about these things. The Cherokee Indians and all that, they were all intertwined. It was all intertwined to create this country. When you go back with the Knights Templar and everything else, so a lot of deep American history is held back from the schools because, again, if this real stuff was to come out, I mean, it would destroy the evolution doctrine. So many different things. I mean, if you knew the truth about most of history, evolution would be a joke. In fact, evolution was a joke. Short, quick thing on evolution. When Charles Darwin died, the scientific community wanted nothing to do with evolution because Darwin himself, he said, hey, it's just a theory. That's all it is. Because and he said science is something you could demonstrate and observe. And Charles Darwin, he observed finches on the island for 30 years. He went there every year to observe these finches. It's a bird, right? And the beaks slightly changed over time, but that's about it. You know what I mean? But they were still finches 30 years later. Now 100-something years later, almost 200 years, they're still finches. You know what I mean? So they didn't evolve to another creature. But he stated that his theory, it's all it was is a theory. You know what I mean? It's not science unless you could demonstrate it. You know what I mean? And so it was a guy later, when evolution died out, a guy later named Charles Dawson. He was a British paleontologist, and another gentleman, he was a Jesuit, Pierre Teilhard Chardin, I think I pronounced his name right. They took the evolution theory and they went into overdrive with it. You know what I mean? And they put it on steroids, if you want to put it that way. And so they started massively producing, pushing this evolution theory. And the education system says, no, this is a joke. So what they did was to prove, that man evolved from apes. They used the Lucy thing, and also the what's the other one? The missing link. Yeah.
Yeah, the missing link.
And they took a monkey's jawbone, broke it off, filed it down to hit the human skull, buried it. And so when the press came along, they say, oh, look what we discovered. And we uncovered this out of the dirt. Look, that's proof right there. And it was off of fragments of bones. There was nothing, you know what I mean? It was crazy. And so from that day forward, it went, the evolution in school, the textbooks, right? Went from a few sentences, and all of a sudden it just started replacing anything to do with creation at all. And that's what we got today. You know what I mean? Millions of years ago, dinosaurs roamed the earth. Well, how do you know that? You know what I mean? The thing is, a science, right? Science, again, is something you could observe and demonstrate, right? And they're like, 13 point whatever year, billion years ago, the universe was created. How do you know that? You don't. You know what I mean? And 8 billion, whatever they have for the earth, okay? How do you know that? And if you notice, right, everything evolution teaches, right, is a complete opposite of what the Bible says. Evolution says it was a big bang. Then all this matter in the universe came about, and all of a sudden galaxies started forming, blah, 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 all the way down to the creation of the solar system, then the earth, right? The Bible says the earth was first, okay? Then the stars, moon, and sun, everything in the firmament didn't come into day 4. So everything we learn, okay, in the mainstream about almost everything is always opposite what the Bible says. You know what I mean? So why is that? Because they want to hide the Creator. That's what this is all about. Because the thing is, what does giants have to do with the Creator? Easily. Because if they have to admit, there were giants here, and there still are, okay? If they have to admit that, then they're going to have to admit there's a Creator. And they're going to have to admit evolution is garbage. Then they're going to have to admit, you know what? There's more. There's tons and tons of more stuff out there that we've been hiding from you. Then they're going to have to admit, the earth is not what you think it is. And
absolutely,
then all of a sudden, they're going to admit, there's a Creator, and his name is God, Yahweh. You know
Amen.
What I mean?
Amen to that.
That's what they want to hide from you.
Amen. And it's just, man, good. I couldn't say any better, Dan, for real, man. That's bro. Bless you, man. That was great. Seriously.
Yeah, thank you, man. And it's just like it tears me up. I'm starting to get my second win here.
Oh, we're at 12. We've been an hour and a half in. It took you that long. I'm messing with you, Dan.
Just like little things. Like
I'm messing with
you. My blood going. You know what I mean? And they still sit there and deny it. And the thing is, they'll sit around, right? They'll act like a bunch of intellectuals, right? They'll sit there and laugh at you. Because they're well educated, and they'll come up with these scientific words that I could not pronounce to save my life, okay? And all this is an illusion, right? They'll sit there and make up these like porcupine, plop, plop, whatever, a 15-letter word, and to make himself look and sound intelligent when it's an illusion. You know what I mean? Because what they're saying is all fake. They just come up with a high scientific word to say a fake word, something that's fake.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to put confusion in the land. You know what I mean? It's like
absolutely. Well, no, it makes perfect sense. Like the Lucy thing, the missing link, the monkey, and all that stuff. Come on, Dan. I mean, I was going to do a show on that one day down the road. I keep saying it. I keep procrastinating, and I have a few software issues. But I'm telling you guys, spiritual warfare over here in my world. But no joke. Yeah, for real. No joke. So the missing link thing, man. I'll say it again. I said on the broadcast on this channel before. I believe the monkeys, man. I believe they came from us. Like literally just the chimpanzees, all of them, like they're a hybridization creature. That's my opinion. I'm sorry. Like it's a hybrid. And that's why you see so much horrible things done to them. And let's just get real with you. I mean, they do the Neuralink. They're putting all that stuff. They're doing diabolical, abusive things to them, right? They don't have no remorse for God's creatures of any shape or form. And it's just sick, right? I just want to point that out. I mean, I really do think they say it's a missing link. It's not a missing link. It's us. They're just propagating it up.
I can't even go to a museum, man, because like he's looking at a skeleton of a monkey or something. Oh, that's our ancestors. I'm like, it might be your ancestors, not my ancestor. My ancestor's Adam. He got created from God, not a monkey. You know
man.
Well,
it makes me. Oh man. When you go to like a tour or something for a cave or something, over here we have this bones. It has been moved and shifted over time, and it's like that's 1 billion, 6.2 billion. The bear came down and laid down right there and died 2.5 billion years ago. And you're like, how the heck did it get there? And you ask the question to the tour guide. I don't know. I just get paid here. I'm just paid to tell you this. And it's like, do you believe it? Well, I am a little confused. I do question it. I'm like, it looks like it's getting ready to freshly get up and walk. This bones, because I was like, this looks like a plant, like y'all just planted it there.
And they'll use circular reasoning too. It's like basically say, well, we found a skull in the ground and it's 300 million years old. All right, how do you know it's 300 million years old? Oh, because we found it 200 feet on the ground. All right, how do you know 200 feet on the ground represents 3 million years old? By the skull we found. It's like circular reasoning. And that I remember in school, this was funny, man. I don't know exact numbers, but first when they said the fish was developed, the fish, right? And for whatever million years it took to develop the gills, then another couple million years to develop the reproductive system. I'm like, hold on. It's like, sorry, I would just say 5 million years, right? So for 5 million years, right? How did that fish breed and breathe? How you know what I mean? So it lived for 5 million years without a reproductive system and breathing. You know what I mean? To develop the gills. I'm confused. You know what I mean? And the teacher just looks like she was confused, and when she was, because you know what I mean, like it makes no sense at all. It's full of holes, gaps, and contradictions. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's like, we dropped a little DNA of man, and we got us a little bit more intelligent, sea lion or whatever it is.
That's like the Homo sapien. Just started, crawling upright. Whatever. It's like, give me a break. You know what I mean? No, how about this? God made Adam and Eve. Okay, plain and simple. He created Adam, then Eve out of his rib and all that. He made mankind. How's that? Is that simple enough? And here's the thing: if we came from monkeys or apes or whatever, why ain't they all human? Where's the middle transitions? They could never answer that one. Would it just the one day say, all right, hold the production line. No more producing apes into mankind now. When did that happen? You know what I mean? And where's the middle transit? Where's the middle ones walking around that are half mutated? You know what I mean? Like, where's that? You know what I mean? If we seen that, then this could be a very good observation and some science. You know what I mean? Something you could observe and demonstrate. We don't see that. And then they laugh at you. It's like, hold on, you claim to, trust the science, right? I'm using science, and you're not. You know what I mean? You guys are not producing nothing. You know what I mean? I'm using science, like science says. Let me get the right there, right? The people, right? Definition. I can't spell it. Definition of science, right? Right there. An intellectual, practical activity encompassing a systematic study of the structure, behavior, physical and natural world, observation and experiment, right? That's the definition of science. Observation and experiment, right? You can't do any of that with evolution. How do you do that? It's like, all right, who was around 13 billion, whatever the hell, when the Earth was created? Who was around then to tell you, oh yeah, this is when the Earth was created. We're going to start, chronologically charting it now. You know what I mean? Nobody's on. If we seen a star fall, whatever, from heaven hit the Earth, right? Boom, 2022, right? And it started growing for some reason, right? We have scientific data and the observation and experience to watch it grow, okay, to turn into whatever, you know what I mean? We have that, right? All right, nobody was around back then, you know what I mean? And the thing is, where do they get these numbers from? Who comes up with these numbers? I mean, this really gets me going. Who the hell comes up with these numbers? So it's like, all right, we're going to sit around and smoke our little pipes and act like we're all intelligent. And, my Harvard University degree. Anyway, we'll sit around and all decide, all right, let's come up with a cockamamie number. 13 billion years ago, the Big Bang happened. 13 billion years ago. Oh, nobody was around for that, but you know what? That sounds better. That's like radiocarbon dating, too. When we take a radiocarbon dating, we'll do number of tests on something, right? Run numbers of tests. Like there's this Capri Sun here, like radiocarbon date it, you know what I mean? First test comes up 7 years, another one comes up 130 years, whatever, another one comes up 1,000 years in 2 days, whatever, So they'll take the number that sounds the best. They call it science. The number that sounds the best, and they call that science, and it's a scientific fact. And the word theory, right? Here's the other thing, too. Theory has always meant something that could be true or false, right? It's just a theory. It's not fact, right? But somehow in the evolutionary world, right, the word theory only applies as a fact when it associates with itself with evolution. But everything else, you conspiracy theorists, anything else, right? The word theory doesn't exist as a fact, okay? But when it comes to evolution, it automatically it's a fact. You know what I mean? It's so mind-boggling. And it's just like mind control. And it's a religion. It's a bad religion. Yeah. That's all evolution is.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And it goes to the giants here. Again.
Absolutely, Dan.
The giants are just the giants alone, okay, just destroy the entire narrative of evolution. You know what I mean? I didn't need to go to Harvard or some MIT school, whatever, to know that. You know what I mean? This is archaeological studies. This is science, okay? When you go research something, okay, they found hundreds, okay, and again, it's not a single bone or two, thousands of full intact skeletons going from 8, 9, 10, some places 13 feet tall. Sounds ridiculous, but it even gets bigger than that, you know what I mean? And the Middle East, where you talk about the Khazar giant, right? Is that the one?
The Kandahar giant.
The Kandahar giant, yeah. When our own military ran into one of these things, a living one, that killed some of our troops, you know what I mean? And they brought the bodies back here, you know what I mean? And that's why they're going to the Middle East, and they were going to tombs and all that had nothing to do with the war, bringing containers home with archaeological evidence and of these giants. You know what I mean? This is, and again, you could talk to these people all day long, they'll laugh at you. But again, like I said earlier, in the Middle East, they know the stuff. Middle East, the African regions and all that, they know this is common teaching. You know what I mean? And it's not a thing to laugh at. They know these things. The mankind was bigger back then. And, evolution, again, the opposite. Oh, we were like 3 feet tall when we started growing. No. We were giants, okay? Even us, we were kind of big, you know what I mean? Look at David and Goliath. And I really believe that David himself was probably a little bigger statue than, maybe, I don't know. It could be the same size of us today because, we started getting bigger. In the 1800s, we had, in the 1700s, we had, the average man was about 5'6" or something, 5'8", 200 pounds. I'd be a giant compared to them back then. You know what I mean? And so we know and understand that during the cycle, whatever happened, you know what I mean? We started getting bigger, and that's from the genetics and everything. You know what I mean? And I don't want to mention on YouTube, but we started getting bigger and stronger again. But to say that we're bigger, stronger, faster, smarter than we ever were is a real stupid thing to say, because these things, man, people back then, just the average person could outperform a professional athlete today. You know what I mean? And that's not even exaggerating. You know what I mean? Especially the giants and whatnot. Yeah, you get the things like, David and Goliath. Goliath, 13 feet tall at least. You know what I mean? Nobody would be able to take him down today. You know what I mean? If that guy was around here, who the hell's going to stop him? You're going to need a tank to stop that guy. You know what I mean? And it's like, the people bigger, stronger, faster, smarter than we ever were today. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Is that a song? Is that a song, Dan?
I think so, yeah.
I'm just messing with you, Dan. I have to give you a hard time, brother. I love you, brother. It's funny. No, I was taking you serious for real. I just was trying to mess around. Dude, seriously, you're 100% correct. I'll tell you a funny story real quick. It take me a minute. My grandfather planted a tree one time. And I was. This was years ago. My great grandfather, and I knew he planted it. And I remember somebody doing some survey work or something, and I was, like older, and the people, because it's been a long time. It's like 40 or 50 years went by, and that tree growed, right? And because my great grandfather was born like 1905, and they was like, yeah, that thing's a couple billion years old. And I'm like, my granddad, no, son, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, but I promise you, I've got pictures, and this is the tree he planted, and that's how bad off everything is. Do you understand? Like, that's where we're at, Dan. Would completely mindless.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you have evidence, you have physical proof. They just turn around and twist it. It makes no sense. The logistics are off. Like, I've never seen nothing like it in my life. Like, and I don't know about you, but I've never seen a 15-foot man walking around. And the day I do, you know, hopefully I'll have that peace like I did last night when the van, you know, when my daughter's driving, we about teleported out of here after we hit the big deer in the road. But I'll hopefully have that type of peace when I see, you know, giants roaming up and down the earth, you know. But there's something weird about it, Dan. I just can't put my finger on it, man. There's just something to it. And I really do think we're on the cusp of all this stuff to cracking off, you know. It's just, you know, it's infuriating to hear people speak when they talk like that, you know, like that tree, that femur, that's carbon dated to this, that's that. And you think about this logically. It's like our attire that we're wearing tonight. If it even made it another 100 years, you know, are they going to fight over it and say this was on this side? This man was in Rhode Island in 2022, but the guy that was over there chasing giants, that was 2050. And they're going to mess up that much and do a 30 years difference? I believe so. I believe it's so much ignorance going on. They'll continuate the traditions of their fathers. They won't. They'll just mask around, run around like with their. I mean, literally mindless fools. I mean, I hate to be like that, and just come up with random stuff like. Yeah. And you know, and I know what you're talking about when they talk about the satellite imagery and all that, and they come up with the excuse that supposedly the monks and the Tibet and all that with, I don't know if you know anything about it, but the monks and the Chinese, they supposedly have this ability to look like further back. I keep hearing they can go way back and look at the way the sky. I mean, you take it for what it is, right? So I didn't see it. I can't access that information. So is it true? You know what I'm saying? Is it true or false? Like, but it doesn't make any sense to me. And how does somebody just come up with that ideology without some kind of original thought? So, but I can assure you the stuff we're talking about tonight, the Indian mounds, the giants, I have proof. I can take you there. I can actually take you to places, show you. And they will literally persecute me and say it never existed. But you'll say, well, there it is. And there's nothing. It's just crickets, man. But see, I'm not 100% sure if it's Smithsonian covering up. I've looked and done a lot of digging. It's usually high-profile people with a lot of money. There's some people that come in and extract this stuff, right? If they hear of a sarcophagus or a giant man, they pay high dollar. Smithsonian just comes and gets it. I hear, though, if it's a private owner or whatever, they'll pay high dollar, brother. Like, I'm talking like high dollar. Somebody will come in out of the east and just drop that gold, you know, and then take off with it. It's something to do with they're wanting to either harvest it, they're either wanting to study it, they're either...
Oh, you freeze up, Brian? Oh, he's frozen in time.
I think I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
I'm here. Yeah. Hey, I was speaking of that. I just came back. I checked out. I was on this in September. Well, excuse me. No, I'm just saying. I'm just joking. November the 18th. It's 12:42.
Yeah, you keep freezing up. I don't know what's going on.
Well, anyway, just give it a few minutes.
Yeah.
I
got some slides here on the show too. So, yeah, and like the Bible says too, Matthew 24, as the days of Noah, so shall be as the coming of the Son of Man. You know what I mean? And so Noah, you know what I mean? I'm not going to mention that because of YouTube, but yeah, God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt. All flesh had been corrupt upon the earth. You know what I mean? So we talk about this all the time. You know what I mean? the fallen angels, would they intercede with mankind to have children with them? Because I truly believe there was a way of cutting off the bloodline, so Jesus could never be born in the flesh from the perfect host. You know what I mean? From the Garden of Eden, when God confronted Adam and Eve, Adam and Eve and the serpent, which is Satan, to say, your head's gonna brush, your seed is gonna crush the head of her seed, his seed or whatever, and his seed's gonna bruise the heel of her seed. So talking about the coming of Jesus and the Messiah, and also the Antichrist in the future. So what they try to do, because you had that pure genetic bloodline of Adam, right? Then you had the Canaanites were corrupted for somehow, and we think they had more some interaction at the time before the fallen ones actually started really corrupting mankind. So anyway, they try to kill that bloodline. So because Mary and Joseph both were from that pure bloodline, the seed of Adam, you know what I mean, and the Seth, so they try to cut that off ahead of time, so Jesus could never be born in the flesh. Have a perfect host to be born in the flesh. But I believe God would have found another way if that would have happened. The God would have found another way for him to come anyway. So anyway, that's what we're looking at here, you know what I mean? And that's the days of Noah. So they're doing this again, not obviously to prevent Jesus from coming, but to destroy humanity, because that's what they want to do. And back then, they were giants, plain and simple. The Nephilim, most of them were giants. And again, they could have been smaller ones, which had super abilities as well, but if you actually look at all ancient cultures, man, the hieroglyphics and whatnot, you can see these things. From the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Egyptians, ancient Rome, ancient Greece, ancient China, all over the world have the same exact stuff. You have pictures of these giants doing battle with mankind. You know what I mean? And the Nephilim are biblical giants. And Nephilim is described as angelic hybrids that are a result of procreation of human females and fallen angels. And they described in the Book of Enoch as a race of giants who did great acts of evil, existing before after the global flood. Well, actually, world flood, I should say. These giants are also found in many ancient cultures throughout writings, sculptures, and paintings. Bones and remains have been found worldwide. However, they are kept hidden from the public eye, and they are taken to the elite bunkers and secluded, Smithsonian and whatnot, in the facilities. You know what I mean? And even in Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them, and then giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, set forth example, suffering the vengeance of the eternal fire. So this was talked about in the book of Jude, when they go after strange flesh, talking about these Nephilim, you know what I mean? Which, again, not all them giants, some of them have super abilities, and plus what they were doing too was, you ever see the movie 300 or some old, the movie talk about the ancient days, and that battle with men that have hands, crab claws on the hands and horses' heads or whatever, you know what I mean? Those things existed because of the genetic corruption. Again, we got to watch where we say, because of YouTube, anything you talk like that, they frown upon. So these things were real, you know what I mean? And it's not, fictation, what they call Greek mythology. There's no mythology about it at all. And the Greeks, they thought the fallen angels were gods, and they thought their children were demigods, you know what I mean? And, that's the only fictation part of that is, but these things existed. The fallen angels had plenty of interaction with the humans on Earth, yeah. All the ancient cultures talk about it, you know what I mean? They called them the gods, you know what I mean? And offspring, which was the Nephilim, you know what I mean? They were no demigods, but they were corrupt, you know what I mean? They were genetically corrupt and everything. And so that's where the giants come from, you know what I mean? And now where some of the giants are, too, is what we call demons, you know what I mean? And the book of Enoch talks about that, too, because it's also proven in the book of Matthew and Luke, too. So it talks about the fallen one's children, right? So when God killed most of them in the flood, and they killed them afterwards, and some of them still around probably, but their souls don't go to hell, okay? They're cursed to the earth forever. So basically, imagine if you're hungry, starving, and all that. Now, these things were very vicious, okay? They hungered, lusted after anything. I mean, anything that walked, they would try to hump, okay? We'll leave it at that. And so when they died, okay, they still had the same cravings. They still do. They still have thirst, lust, everything else, but they're in the spirit. And they're very nasty things. That's why when they possess people, they do nasty things with the people. And they're what you think is a demon, which is a demon, yeah, but they're the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, plain and simple. You know what I mean? And because Jesus talked about that too when Jesus confronted Legion, right? And nobody would even go near that. And, the guy possessed with Legion. So Jesus went up, he went up to Jesus pleading. And they said, and Jesus, are you here to cast us away before our time? You know what I mean? To throw us into hell. Because they knew they're stuck on the earth until Judgment Day. You know what I mean? Judgment Day, they go to the lake of fire. So they thought they were going to be cast into hell. Before that, because they were told they got to stay on the earth for, till judgment. So Jesus let them go into the swine, then drown themselves to go back into the spirit. You know what I mean? So, this stuff is very real. You know what I mean? And why do you think the governments are out there? They're confiscating these remains, and I think, the Antichrist is going to be a seed of Nimrod. You know what I mean? The seed of the serpent, you know what I mean? Which Nimrod, you know what I mean? He took the cake for that thing right there. You know what I mean? Nimrod, nobody could understand how he became a giant. We have different theories how he did that, but he did become a giant. He became a Nephilim, you know what I mean? And he was a Nephilim king, was huge, you know what I mean? And so he tried to take over the world, you know what I mean? The Tower of Babel and everything else, and they're doing the same thing today. So the Antichrist, he's going to be a seed of the serpent. You know what I mean? So whoever the Antichrist is, he's going to be possessed by Satan himself. Yeah, and so it's going to be, so this is why this stuff is very important, because in the scriptures it talks about when the bottomless pit is opened up and all these things start coming on the earth, man, and it's going to be a wild ride, I tell you that, for the people who are going to be tortured by these things. You know what I mean? You're going to see giants and all kinds of crazy stuff you never thought you ever see in existence, man. It's crazy, man. And all kinds of things like this, a Quetzalcoatl here, all kinds of winged men with 4 arms and all that stuff was real. There's no fictitious about that. That's not out of the imagination of somebody, you know what I mean? These things were real. And it's Germany, Egypt, and India. Yeah, people, lions' heads, human beings, it's crazy, man.
And it's interesting, like, we could talk about, I've got a truck ton of, like, data. We could talk more newspaper clippings all day long, but I think people understand, like, what we're getting at tonight on this broadcast. Yeah. It's like blatantly in your face. Like, and I'll tell you something, Dan, I don't know if you heard this or not, but speaking of animal hybrids and all this stuff, I stumbled upon something the other day. They're talking about this, it's called Sentinel. Okay, that's what I'm going to say. It's called Sentinel. And it looks like something out of Stranger Things, which I do not promote that show in any shape or form, which I would never even go back and watch it. I watched the first season or a few episodes, and I thought it was the most, it's demonic. Okay. Yeah. But, the white substance, like the white veiny looking substance that's under the ground, all that stuff, there is a thing, and it was called Sentinel, if I'm not mistaken. And, let's just say it goes along with a little chemtrail narrative, and man, oh boys, and it literally there was talking about animals demonstrating other. There's been some type. It's a sentinel. It's like a. I'm trying to be good with my words here without messing up. I was saying something off the wall, but that would mess up and get us in trouble. Let's just say there's some type of technology about it, and it's replicating and self-replicating. It can be in the air. So that's the first thing I thought of when he's talking about wing animals and stuff like that. I was just listening to you, man. And what is it? There's nothing under the sun. So if things that was, there could be some things that pop back up, nothing under the sun. It's kind of trippy, man. And that's what I'm saying. I literally, what my presentation, what I was bringing up earlier with all these proton, these particle accelerator, I really do think it's portal gates, man. And just to kind of sum it up, everybody, I think there's gateways, portal systems. These things have been doing it for millennium after millennium after millennium. And it's hard not to overlook what, and I'm not boasting on a lot of the stuff that I showed tonight it's theories of mine. It's just stuff that I've been compiling as data. So just for research purposes. But man, there's a lot of what ifs, but what if all this stuff is really a gateway to some kind of interdimensional, that's how they go in and out, something to do with, talk about the ice wall, Dan, right? Yep. Something to do with the lands beyond the wall, something to do with correlation with that. Or is it, or is it something more nefarious to that? Is there something way beyond that?
Look at those big cities, man. The ancient city structures are still there to this day. The steps
absolutely.
Like gigantic, and like just the whole building itself You know what I mean? It's crazy, man. And I want to bring this up too, real quick, from Joshua. Just one more thing here on the hybrids, basically. So it's the book of Joshua, ancient book of Joshua, which is quoted in Jude, I believe.
That's correct.
Yeah. So
no,
anyway,
is it no Jasher in the book of Jude? No, forgive me. I think it's 2 Timothy and something that maybe 2 Samuel. It's Samuel and 2 Timothy. Forgive me, the Jasher. Have you not read the book of Jasher? I think it's 2 Timothy or 2 Samuel. It's one of those books. I think it's Timothy.
Yeah.
Either 1st or 2 Timothy or 1st or 2 Samuel. Yeah.
Well, chapter 4 of Joshua talks about the judges and rulers went to the daughters of men and took them their wives by force from the husbands according to their choice. And the sons of men in those days took from the cattle of the earth, the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the air, and taught mixture of animals. Look, that's hybridization. That's why you see these things in movies and all that in Greek mythology, because this is not mythology. This is true. And they took a mixture of animals of one species with another. So they're mixing species. And people say, well, this kind of something new we're doing now. No, this is ancient stuff, guys. In order, therefore, to provoke the Lord God into anger. And so the whole earth was all corrupt. And it was corrupted from the ways of the earth and all men and animals. So, you got all these ancient texts, Joshua, even the book of Jubilees talks about some stuff. Joshua, Enoch, the Bible, ancient cultures, all talking about these things, you know what I mean? And, like human hybridization. You see a guy is half serpent, whatever the case is, the lion and the dragon together, whatever. Those were real, you know what I mean? And today, they're called grin and singular technology, where they could clone things, where they could, mix species, which they're doing now. They're taking animals and humans to try to breed them together. You know what I mean? And so this stuff was going on for thousands of years, guys. It's nothing new. You know what I mean? That's why, again, there's nothing new under the sun. I just wanted to bring that up real quick and just to show you that these things exist. You know what I mean? Every ancient culture talks about them. They did battles with mankind with them. Yeah, I mean, it's not out of somebody's imagination. This is real stuff. You know what I mean? It's amazing. Man. It really is. And it's not amazing because these things, it's an abomination of God.
Yeah.
They did that purposely to destroy mankind.
Well, I just think it's interesting that, like I said at the beginning of this broadcast, there's writings that talk about these creatures. They was being hunted back in the 1800s. So is it too much to ask? I mean, come on. The people that are pushing evolution or whatever, I mean, are you kidding me? Like, if there's, if there's literature out there that's literally saying, hey, these types of creatures were being hunted back in the 1800s, that wasn't that long ago, Dan. Let's just get real with it. It's crazy, man. Like, how can you, I don't like being defragmented in my brain and being told that this stuff didn't exist. And there's like you're showing there's evidence stacked to the ceiling. We got more data there than we do, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we could prove just anything like as far as, for example, if we time traveled in the future and said, hey, the golden arches, I'm just talking about McDonald's, which I don't endorse. But even then, if it was, McDonald's, when did it come out, in the 50s or 40s or something like that? I don't know. But anyways, the evidence on this goes way back. It's generational. Even, who would really care about a food joint, like an aspect? This stuff is like on everything, like all types of civilizations. I mean, you say golden arches, right? They'd be like, what's the golden arches? Even today, people would say that. But my point is, there's like thousands of thousands and thousands and thousands upon thousands of years in generational and so societies and civilizations that are talking about these creatures and beings. There's just no way around it, man. There's no way around it. People just don't. They just shun it. They shun it and say it's not real. And I'm like, okay. But I don't know.
Oh, yeah, by the way, guys, thank you. What was it, Wednesday we had a show? On Spiritual Warfare Wednesday, we did a little fundraiser for FOJCRadio.com. Thank you guys so much for helping us raise money for them. And she was able to stay on the air. You know what I mean? She ran into some financial problems that's the owner of ShakeAwakeRadio.com. So we were able to help her to stay on the air because she had car problems and all this other stuff that just comes out of nowhere. So she had to try to keep the radio show on the air, or have a car to get around. So she had to take care of her bills and everything. But we helped her raise money. And by the way, in the chat room, guys, we got I put it up in the pin too, but it's a chat room, which is it's like a super fund, but basically you cut and paste the link or click on it, whatever, and you could donate whatever you want to the show here, and all the proceeds go into the show here for me and Brian, and and it's awesome. It keeps the lights on in the building because we rent a space here, and it keeps the streaming services paid for on Rumble and all that. So I thank everybody who's been donating. We also got the PayPal, Venmo, and a Cash App as well. So whatever, it's $1, even $1 is a blessing. Trust me when I tell you. The links are in the description as well, and also in the chat room there. That's our new page. It's Ko-Fi. It's an awesome page, and it goes to our PayPal and all that. So thank you guys for the donation for the ministry and all that stuff. And so because it costs money to do this stuff. So anyway, so you want to take phone calls? You got more stuff to talk about?
One thing I will show this real quick, Dan.
Yeah.
I showed it before on the channel, but it'd just be like 2 or 3 minutes, then we can start taking phone calls for sure. 1 second, and I'm gonna show you guys something. So me and Dan has showed this on Google Earth. We showed it on a couple of shows back, but I wanted to show you guys this. I haven't really showed it much, but you can take Google Earth, right, and then you can like put an old 1500 map on like 1590. Okay, so you explained to me, like you was just talking about all kinds of different creatures, hybridization creatures, etc., and all this stuff, right? So like literally there's all kinds of stuff inundated here. We got mermen, merladies, all these monsters coming out of the sea, and all these different things correspond. I'm kind of doing a little quick crash course review here, a little tutorial. I will mention this. If you go to South America, there's giants. Like I've mentioned this before. Like these are guys. I think these are giants here, and then there's right here the gigantic. This is in Brazil, and you got the griffins, all these characters that are carrying elephants, and these depictions. This is in 1590. Come on, and that wasn't. It was like let's just say 500 years ago, right? So it's kind of sad. And this is technically a flat Earth map, but I rendered it and put it on my Google Earth. But I just want to point that out and then just to touch base. I mean, if you think about Tartaria the way it used to be, and you get into California, this pretty much proves the whole Tartarian thing, the displacement of the land. And it's just so much stuff. I mean, there's creatures here. You got some kind of dog-like creature, like another griffin with wings. I mean, what Dan was just saying about this hybridization stuff, and there's, like I was saying earlier, I was making the analogy with the golden arches of McDonald's, but I haven't had McDonald's in years. That's the first thing I could think of, guys. I about teleported out of here yesterday, okay? I about walked up out of this realm because of an accident. But so give me a little bit of a break. But yeah, there's all these creatures, right? So it's funny that they'll have camels, etc., and all kinds of different creature situations. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy like creature looking. I mean, it's just mind blowing. Like this creature, it looks like some kind of woman anatomy with that's something out of, I don't know. And there's unicorns. I mean, it really literally says it. I mean, it's just it's mind boggling, guys. I mean, there's nothing really you can say. And, and then get into Antarctica. We can go on a big rant about all that, but the creatures did exist, and it wasn't that long ago. And to me, just wanted to share that, Dan.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And I got a picture over here too, because this is just fascinating. Because if you look at all the old maps, hang on, let me get to my internet. If you look at all the old maps, I think we lost Brian.
I lost you, Dana, for a minute.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So there's the map he's talking about, but this is the map. Of course, this is the old map here, and you got all these people made these maps and all that. But check this out. Let me get into. So when you zoom on this map and everything, it just shows you lands that don't show up on today's map. You know what I mean? It's pretty amazing. I think Brian, you still there, Brian? Oops, 1 second, guys. Let me get Brian back.
I'm back.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah, I'm back. I don't know, the internet, it seems okay. I think it might be a YouTube deal. It keeps cutting me out, but thanks for interjecting and throwing that map up, Dan. If you still hear me, I hope everybody can still hear me in the chat. Yep. I just lost. It's just the internet is dying in and out. So forgive me, guys. But yeah, thanks for throwing that up, Dan. But I hope everybody understood what I was saying. Did you hear what I said about all the stuff? What Dan was saying, all this stuff is just like this map is just inundated with all kinds of creatures. It's unbelievable, right?
Yeah, it's like this areas are populated with certain creatures like that.
Yeah, points of let me just take this in. Points of entry. Just think about it for a minute. An origin of where the creature resides. Let's just think about it. You're from Rhode Island. I'm from Kentucky. Let's not think, you know what I'm saying? Let's not think weird here. Wherever, things do come from certain places, and it is what it is. There's more populations of certain birds in certain, Brazil or wherever we want to call it, right? There's all kinds of different places, right? So that have migration of different things, etc. But what I'm saying 500 years ago, inundated with all kinds of hybridization creatures on this map. And I was trying to show it on my Google Earth a while ago, so I apologize for the bad internet connection.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to put this link in the chat room, guys, because I know a lot of you interested in this map. So, yeah, check it out. It's the link's in the chat room. So check it out when you get a chance, man. You could actually zoom up on everything and everything else. You could actually order it, too. It's a giant map you could order, and they'll send it to you. I don't know how much it is, but...
That's a little money. Yeah. I think it's a little expensive.
But I spent an hour on there one night just, examining every part. And, again, there's continents that not even on the globe. You know what I mean? It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. Absolutely. And you got to think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
As where we stand as far as what they're telling us. But I love that I could render it and put it on my Google Earth and kind of correspond with my, just use it as a reference. But, dude, that stuff, the giants are on that map. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's just blatantly right there.
And that proves that a lot of ancient maps, maps, hundreds of years old. These ancient, explorers from centuries ago. You know what I mean? They all went to these certain lands that not on the globe today. Why is that?
Absolutely, dude. Look. I'm gonna real quick, and here's my interpretation of it. This is what I think. When you have a strong military presence. Because when I look at this data and I know when the whole Indian Mound narrative and everything, Renaissance missions, they keep the secrets hidden. Once they find the origins, they clean up shop. They either preserve it, keep it preserved, say, hey, watch this land. They delegate it to whoever's in power or whatever. There's a lot of money involved. Mm-hmm. Something is really sinister about it all. And then they keep it going down from the families 400 to 500 years. It'll stay in the same family, the piece of property. And it's crazy, guys. It's crazy.
It really is. It's sickening, man, because all the massive corrupts they do. It's I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracy person, but yeah, it's a massive corrupt. And I think the biggest conspiracy out there is them hiding these bones and because of the evolution thing. You know what I mean? Why would they go out of their way? And the thing is, it's on record, and they think which most people today I had to say are not too smart, but on record, okay, I could prove this stuff on record. You know what I mean? Newspaper articles and all that from paleontologists and, write-ups. And, of course, the people get, kicked out of the universities. They don't tell you all the time. Ellie Mazzulli, he was run out of the universities. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He was going around seeing giant bones and all that stuff. And, keep your mouth shut about them. Oh, the dinosaur bones are cool. But keep your mouth shut about the large human-like bones you find. You know what I mean? And Ken Hovind, I had him on years ago. I want to try to get him on again. But so many instances with him. He's ran into so many scientists and all that we're told if you don't shut up, they're going to blackball you. And they do. They excommunicate you from the education system. You could be an awesome professor one day. Next thing, you're showing the truth. The next thing, you're out in your butt. You know what I mean? And then you're deemed as some kind of a wacko from the university or the education system, or the scientific community. It's crazy. And the lengths of things they go through to keep this stuff hushed up. And again, you got to ask, why? Why? Because, again, they want to hide the creator. They want to hide the fact that Jesus is coming back. They want to hide the fact that these giants are going to come back on the earth again. They want to hide the fact that these fallen angels are coming back. The river Euphrates is drying up right now, right? And Revelation talks about the two angels who are chained up in the Euphrates River. They're coming back, and they're not coming back to say hello to you. They're coming back to kick some butt, you know what I mean? In a bad way, you know what I mean? And yeah. So this is stuff that we need to pay attention to because we're right around the corner for this. I mean, we're right at the doorstep, around the corner, or whatever you want to call it. We're there, okay? And it's only a matter of time.
Absolutely, Dan. Real quick, since you brought up Revelation, I wanted to ask you, I haven't talked to you about this, but I'm going to ask you on air here. I did hear, no joke, there's some claims certain people are claiming. Has anybody heard, Dan, including you, I'm asking you, everybody in the chat too, have you heard about the two witnesses? They're literally saying the two witnesses are here and communicating. I kid you not. I was like, you know what? Mount Sinai, I can barely swallow that. I can barely swallow, and even just without getting severely mangry about that, about the 10 Commandments. But you mean to tell me the same week that they're changing and altering and, making these new so-called green commandments and all this stuff? You mean to tell me the two witnesses are showing up now? So just take it for what it is, right? So is it real? Is it true? Is it just a theory? Is it whatever? I'd have to see the proof, but I have been hearing a little chatter about that. Then and I'm not discrediting the person. I mean, it is their claim. It is their claim. I just wanted to see if you knew about it, Dan.
Well, there's that I didn't know about that, but the answer to that one is like the other ones. Like remember with CERN, a lot of people are like, oh, is this the Revelation 8? I think it is about the portals being open. The depth, deep, whatever. So the thing is, where you got to look at, right, before we come to the conclusion it's part of prophecy, you got to look where that particular prophecy is, right? So you find where that prophecy is, right? So like Jesus, right? Jesus is going to come back, right? But what's the prophecies before he comes back that leads up to that? So people say, oh, Jesus could come back tomorrow. Whoa, hold on a second. How could he come back tomorrow? Because he can't come back unless certain things happen. So when you think something's going to prophecy, you look where that is, right? Then you look at the sequences that lead up to that. So if we, just say it's 5 steps before, Jesus comes back, right? And we were still at step 1 or not at step 1 or step 2, step 3. You know what? If step 4 didn't happen yet, step 5 is not going to happen. It has to happen in sequence. You know what I mean? So in other words, like Jesus says when he comes back, right? And the same thing with this here too. You got to look at the prophecies before that event. You know what I mean? So before Jesus comes back, he says right before that, the sun, moon, and stars are going to lose the light and the stars are going to fall from heaven. Right? The earth, the heavens are going to be shaken, right? Before that, the Antichrist is revealed. You know what I mean? And he does his thing, whatever the case. So, and the restraint is lifted before that. So before the Antichrist comes, people with, like example, with the MOB, right, the mark of the beast, people think it's the, the thing that's been going on the last couple of years. No, because if you look at it, right, what happens before that? It's the Antichrist who has to push it, right? The Antichrist ain't here yet. Well, he might be here. I think he's here, but he's not in power, okay? The restrainer has to be lifted before the Antichrist is revealed and comes to power. The restrainer is still here. We could actually clearly see that, you know what I mean? And I think he's already got his bags packed and ready to go. But, you got to look at, before we jump to conclusions, if this is biblical prophecy, all right? And you remember, too, there's always preemptive things that are very similar to it just to get people accustomed to it or whatever the case, you know what I mean? And so because the elite on their side, they try to push prophecy before their time, you know what I mean? So in other words, if it takes 5 steps for the certain prophecy to happen, if we're not at step 4 yet, 5 is not coming. It doesn't skip over prophecies. That's not how it works. You know what I mean? It has to go exactly according to plan. And if it didn't, then we would just throw out Bibles. You know what I mean? Because if a prophetic event to happen, right? Like the return of the giants and all that, there's many things that have to happen that lead up to that. It's not just boom, tomorrow, giants are walking the earth. There's things that have to happen. You know what I mean? So we need to understand that and, see where we are in the timeline. So you put together that timeline, see where you are in it. You know what I mean? And again, they're going to throw out preemptive things that would condition you for that, or just try to tantalize you in in that perspective. If this makes sense to everybody.
Yeah. Well, that's like I'll just say, not to give credit. Go ahead, Dan.
Guy in the chat room. How much drugs you think?
Yeah, I've seen that. That's why I was kind of getting hesitant. I was just actually just going to pray for that gentleman.
We're not on
that's
drugs,
okay.
man. We're on the Holy Spirit, and
that's okay.
God bless you anyway. How's that sound?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't take no medications either. We don't take that stuff, guys.
Yeah, just pray for you. But the gentleman that was mentioned that I do like his work on giants. Steve Quayle was the one mentioning that. Kid you not, guys. So that might, people are like, I'll look that up about the two witnesses.
Yeah.
He's been talking about that here in the last little bit. So
I need to check that out.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting. Just throw it out there. So
two witnesses of Revelation. So let's see what's going on with that.
Yeah, Steve Quayle was talking about it. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
Just throw it out there. But yeah, I mean, all this stuff, it just seems like everything's just kind of speeding up, So I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, Steve Quayle, like his the Q files.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's got some good stuff. So
yeah, he does good work. Yeah.
You want to open the phone lines up, or you?
Yeah, go for it, Dan.
All right, guys. There's the phone number there. It's 512-547-1776. And just try to stick onto the subject, guys. Talking about giants today. 512-547-1776.
It's been a good show, Dan.
Yeah. There was still more stuff we had too, and I
was
going to bring more stuff too, and I didn't even get to do that.
Yeah, I mean, no. I think we threw a lot out there, But we could still stay here to about 6 or 7, but we'd pass out probably with them, on broadcast here. But yeah, so
yeah, man. So yeah, guys, if you want to call in and give you comments on it, because this is something we should definitely be always be aware of. You know what I mean? Because when this stuff pops off, man, it's got to be some people might say we're on drugs, but you know what? When this stuff happens in real life, you got to be wishing you're on drugs, because it's got to be something like you never got to ever expect in your life. You know what I mean? It's got to be one of those situations you got to pinch yourself to see if you're alive in a week. You know what I mean? Because it's got to be that much of a change. It's got to be a culture shock, if you want to put it that way. Something out of the norm, you know what I mean? And, yeah, if you want to put it that way, because that's what's coming, man. And the world's prepping for that, you know what I mean? They're doing all these little things, and with the alien agenda, which plays a big part in this, all plays a part in each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the people that are saying those comments, look, guys, I've been through too much. If you're going to sit, you're not going to get a rise out of me. I really will pray for people that are talking about us. That, it doesn't even bother me. Like I promise it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
We just need to pray. I'll pray for you. I'm not even going to get into a conflict or anything, because that's what you guys want, that type of person with that mentality. We don't have time for that stuff. I mean, I'm glad you're here. I hope you got something from the show, but don't sit there and just blast us. I will pray for you though. I got too much going on in my life to be worried about somebody bashing us, and talking down to us. It's all good, you know what I'm saying? So I'll pray for you, because that's what we're supposed to do.
And Crystal Gross, she wants us to pray for her mom, Betty. She goes on Tuesday the 22nd, 5:15 a.m. or p.m. for open heart surgery. So.
Oh Lord, hey man, I'll pray for. Yeah, absolutely, I'll pray. I'll write that down.
Yeah.
Or let me screenshot
I'll
that.
throw one out quick too. Say, Jesus, Yeshua Messiah, please forgive us for our sins, and we ask you, Heavenly Father, to help Crystal Gross's mom, Betty, have a successful recovery from her surgery, or you could do something that she doesn't have to go to surgery, that she just miraculously comes to fruition, And so either way, we ask you in your heavenly name, Lord, to protect Betty and with great health. In your name, amen.
Amen. Yeah.
So awesome stuff. So I'm just looking for questions in the chat room.
Yeah. Anybody call in? It's I know we're a little later than we usually are. We start at 11 today, but please call in. I mean, technically, huh? What'd you say, Dan? I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying, we started an hour later than we usually do.
Yeah. Yeah, so, please call in somebody.
Yeah. Usually Brother Tim calls in. Woo!
Yeah.
But, man, I think this is pretty cool because, it's always a fascinating subject. It really is, because it's just endless. There's always new information coming out. And there's so much research you could do. I mean, you couldn't even shake a stick at the
Absolutely.
research that you could pull up. So, to the brother that said we're on drugs, guess what? You know what? I encourage you, man, to go do your own research, and you're going to find tons of research. And in fact, overwhelming research. You know, you go to the libraries and whatnot and just go dig up these newspaper articles. And, you don't take our word for it. Go to the New York Times, go to the New York Post, whatever, the old newspapers like Providence Journal, New York Times, or whatever. You could find articles going back to 1800s, 1700s, the late 1700s, talking about and showing you giant skeletons, you know what I mean? And that were found when, we're excavating the land and all that, especially in Arizona area, too. That was a huge hot point, too, right? A lot of...
Absolutely. And that's where Arizona out that way they have the Mount Graham with the Lucifer telescope and all that.
Yeah.
Out that way. I think it's in Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a lot. That was a big Indian refuge out there. Big Indian presence out there. And they built that Lucifer telescope, bro. Seriously, some crazy stuff.
You know who's to be careful for too, guys? Is the History Channel and Discovery Channel. So basically, this stuff's been hot topic for a while. So of course, I got to jump on it, and I got to warn you ahead of time, right? That right at the beginning, the previews of the show when the History Channel. I forgot the guy's show. What's that show? Shows the giant stuff. I forgot the guy's name.
You talking about the History Channel?
Yeah.
It is not. It is law. I let that flow out of my brain right now.
Yeah.
I usually can name it off pretty quick, but we've been talking about some pretty heavy hitters when it comes to giants in my brain right now. I'm a little off key there. Forgive me.
Yeah, that's all right. There's a few of them out there anyway. So if you see a show on the History Channel, it's like, giants discovered or some ancient city. What they do is purposely, right? They know all the stuff's hot topic, right? So what they'll do is they'll lure you in with a preview or the beginning to actually show that this could be actually true, right? But what they'll do is right toward the end of the show, like usual, they'll come up with some cockamamie excuse, right? It was one show, I think it was an ancient wall. It was 200 feet high, and it was a perfect square around the city, right? They try to say it was natural rock formation at the end of the show. Because rocks naturally just form into a perfect wall exactly 200 feet up, right? Circumference in the city, it's like what? That's a natural rock formation. 200, exactly the same length all around the city, you know what I mean? And they'll do things like that, you know what I mean? And they'll talk about the giants. Then they'll come up and say, well, it's people like over-exaggerate and all that when they have the bones, you know what I mean? And they'll always do these things. And they'll talk about Freemasons, Illuminati and all that, secret societies, but they'll dramatically water it down, you know what I mean? Then, at the end of the show, you're like, the people look and say, oh, yeah, it is just a conspiracy. But the smart people do the research, and it's not a conspiracy. You know what I mean? And they do that purposely with these shows because it's all hot topics right now, and they'll jump on the hot topics and just for ratings. That's all they do. But they'll dismiss it because that's their job. Their job is to make it. They're disinformation agents, but that's what they are, to make it look dumb. You know what I mean? So people don't even look into it. You know what I mean? And that's why we have shows like ours to make it look real for what it is. We call it for what it is, and these things are real. You got all the ancient cultures. Summarize this one more time. All of them, not just a couple. Every ancient culture on the planet talks about the giants, right? They have hieroglyphics, all this records or whatever. The Bible does. The Book of Enoch does. The Book of Joshua does. The Book of Moses' book there. Jubilees. I'm sorry, guys. It's been a long day. So all these ancient books, too, talk about giants. Native American history talks about giants. You know what I mean? Again, I remember the stories from my uncle, and he was a tribe's historian. It's like for the Wampanoag tribe here in New England, and the Native Americans had a great deal running with these giants. The Iroquois Indians talk about how these giants would like really, how big a buffalo is. It's like bigger than his van, and some of these giants would be able to run up beside a buffalo, literally pick up the buffalo with one arm and rip the other leg off. So we got a call coming in, 928 number. You're on the air. What's your name?
Yeah, this is Vince from Phoenix, BGS MMA.
Hey, what's up, brother?
Hey, how are you guys? Turn it up,
man. I can't hear him. This morning.
This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. This morning. So I got a location. I live in Phoenix area, and I've been here 50 years. And about an hour north of my home is an area that I described, and this is kind of for your guy that was heckling you in the chat room. I described this area as a Nephilim battleground. There is amazing evidence, including fossilized bones scattered across maybe 200, 300 acres. And one of the things that I find most fascinating out there is, you guys know what a dolmen is?
A dolmen?
Yep, that's a stone house, like Fred Flintstone house.
Yeah. I could barely hear you, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I 100%.
Okay, so anyhow, is this better? Hopefully you can hear me better. So anyhow, about an hour north of my home here in Phoenix, there's an area.
Are you on speaker, brother? If you're on speaker, take it off, because sometimes the speaker just makes it sound low.
Okay.
Yeah, you're wicked muffled, bro. Yeah, I could barely hear you.
I really wanted to hear what he said too, but the location.
Yeah. I don't know if you can hear us, man. Try calling back.
Hello?
Yeah, we could barely hear you. Very light, faint. Yeah, try calling back, man.
Please, if you can hear us, please call back, because I want to hear what you had to say. The stone houses are very interesting. I know a bunch of them. I know a bunch of them. I've seen them. I've looked into it in my area. So that guy. I would love to hear what he had to say about that. Absolutely.
Uncle Avi says they also call them fairy dolmens.
Oh yeah. So it's interesting, right? So when you look at these stones, it's crazy. Like, everyone I looked at, they're not even they're not in the spot that they hit. The rocks are not even known into the lands. It's like the land just appeared. I mean, the rocks just appeared out of nowhere and somebody builds a house. And the rocks don't fit the area at all. They're not supposed to be there. And it's mind boggling, right? So you have to think about that. Like, how does something get these big boulders and stuff, just randomly find a big stone house out in the middle of nowhere? But then you'll see a stream of water and you'll see Indian mounds.
Yeah.
And like the gentleman on the phone, he was talking about a big presence of Nephilim, Raphaim, or I think he said Nephilim or giants. I say the gentleman, if he can call back, I would love to know if there's a bunch of, he's talking about, didn't he say a couple hundred acres or something? I might have misunderstood him. It was muffling out, but if you can hear me, my friend, please call back. I would like to hear what you had to say. And be patient. Just be patient. Don't get upset with the phones, because I'm having internet connections myself, my friend. And last night, like I said, if you're just out doing the broadcast, I about teleported out of the earth yesterday. So I'm just glad to be here. So that's all we need is patience. We just need to be patient. So this technology can fail us, man. Life's too short. And I would love to hear about the Indian mounds, for all the Indian stuff, the Nephilim, for real.
Let me show it to the mountains.
Yeah, another thing too is having there's probably a big presence of arrowheads and everything, that whatever area he's talking about, I say it's inundated with a ton of Indian arrowheads and stuff. Big ones. There you go.
Yep, this is him again. Hey, what's up, MMA?
All right. How's the connection now?
Oh, it's a lot better.
Yeah, I can hear you perfect.
All right, I switched phones out. All right, so an hour north of my home in Phoenix is an area that I refer to as a Nephilim battleground. It's extremely unique, including fossilized bone fragments scattered over an area. I'm going to say it's a couple hundred acres that I've tromped through. And one of the areas is a dolmen, and for those that don't know what that is, it's an old home, a pre-Adam or a pre-Antediluvian home, basically like a Fred Flintstone house. Yeah. And on this one has been collapsed. It was built on the side of a kind of a hill, and it's collapsed and rolled down towards the bottom of the hill. And right on the side of this boulder, about twice the size of my hands, are a set of handprints. Now, there's a right hand and a left hand. You could see how it had been pushed. And if I stretched my arms out as far as I could possibly stretch my fingertips from one end to the other, I could just barely touch the spread of these two handprints.
Wow.
And then the utilities, things they use to for fires or lamps and things of that nature, all carved into these rocks. But one of the coolest things that I found out there is what I call a kind of a pre-Roman concrete. Now, what I do for a living is I'm a field engineer, and I build highways, roads, and large corporate developments. This concrete, thousands and thousands of years old, large cobble concrete, some of the mesas that are in Arizona, and we're known for our big plateaus, our mesa areas. Well, this mesa that you're standing on top of, if you dig down just a little bit to the surface, you run into this Roman-style concrete, like I'd say 300 BC style concrete, very thick, about 18 to 20 inches thick, and the whole entire top layer of this mesa is built of this concrete. And there's little stem walls. You can see where they've taken stones, fitted stones, and cut them 90-degree angles, and they're like key wedge slots and things like that. And when you're sitting up there and you're looking down below you, it's probably about 250 feet from the top of this down to where you kind of hit the desert floor and the landscape contrast. You can see things like boulders that have been thrown, that have hit the earth, that have cracked into 2 or 3 pieces. But it wasn't like a rock hitting a rock. It was like something very large had thrown this, made a projectile out of this. And where it landed and smashed, you could see where it smashed into the earth, how it drug through, made a little ravine, cracked in a couple pieces. And around this area, like I said previously, there are fossilized, pelvic bones, sockets, and knees, and they're literally just all over the place out there still. It's kind of a unique, undiscovered. About an hour north of that is where you start running into the Native American or the Navajo or the Nation, as we call them here, or as they call themselves here. You start running into those areas that lead into the Grand Canyon, and you guys have had stories about that, and we're very familiar with Kincaid Shorten.
Wow.
Boy, if you guys ever make it out to this side, I would love to get you out there and show you what I was talking about.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I have a question for you, if you can hear me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that where you're referring to? Is that close to where the Phoenix Lights was back in 1997?
The Phoenix Lights? Yeah, that'd be an hour north of the Phoenix Lights.
Okay, interesting. It's still close.
Yeah, the Phoenix Lights were right over my head.
Wow. It's just interesting. I'm sitting there just listening to you and kind of closing my eyes, man, trying to that's how I think. I'm like rendering the map in my brain, looking at all the locations. I'm kind of strange. I don't need the internet, man, or the maps. I'm just like looking and trying to focus on your locations. It's really cool. I appreciate you. This information
I can help you out on the location. I just didn't want to totally reveal it, but you guys are my family, and FOJC, NYS TV, that's my family. So if you go to a map of Arizona and you go to Lake Pleasant on the map of Arizona, which is in Peoria, and you go about 8 miles north and about 10 miles to the west, and that's a good central location about what I'm talking about.
I appreciate that. I'm writing it down. Interesting. That's really cool.
It's extremely unique.
Yeah, and we have a friend that lives out in Arizona, so that's wow. There's so much I could talk about Arizona in general. I could sit there and just ramble off, and this is really cool. That land, I say it's inundated with a bunch of arrowheads. I say it's just littered. You just can't see it. Obviously you have to do some excavating, digging, but they probably wouldn't allow you to do that. But I can imagine there's probably a truck ton of arrowheads out that way, my friend.
Yeah, there's areas out there where you can see the vitrification where, that would be indication of extreme heat, where even the soil, the topical soil which is mostly sand and loamy materials out there, and decomposed granite, you could see some spots in that area where it just looks like it was scorched. And I don't mean like 300 degrees, I mean 3,000 degrees, just scorched. And then if you stepped on it, and it would crack like a bunch of glass.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yep. Very, very cool.
It reminds me.
The corridor that I'm talking about, I don't know if you're familiar with Montezuma's Castle and a few of the other old, what they call Indian ruins. I've seen these myself, and I strongly believe that the Native Americans we refer to now as the Navajo and the Hopi and the Havasupai, I think they moved into these previously existing facilities personally. But again,
Absolutely.
It's a great adventure.
Absolutely.
And I gave you kind of an idea of where it's at. And I'm going to send Dan, I got your email address. I got a couple pictures. I'll send them to you here in the next couple of days.
Awesome.
Really
Thank you,
cool.
man.
Really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys' time. And,
You too, brother.
you're very few people awake when I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, be blessed. I pray for Arizona. We have a friend that lives out there. There's a lot of weird things that go on out that way, and there's a lot of weird things that go out in Kentucky. I can promise you that. So,
Rhode
I do, in Rhode Island too. But there is a lot of weird stuff. I have heard some interesting things with Arizona. So, yeah,
Arizona is definitely a spiritual hub, as you know. We do have Sedona Vortex. We got the Mount Graham portal and the Lucifer telescope. That's down in Tucson, by the way. But also, our very first conversation that we had was about SRA and witchcraft. The amount of Satanism and what they like to harmlessly call witchcraft in the state of Arizona is overwhelming. You can almost feel it when you drive in from other states.
I've heard this, my friend. I've heard this from our other friend. He tells me this all the time. Yeah, you're not the only one. I've heard this.
Well, thank you for your phone call, brother. And look forward for those pictures.
Yeah, I'll get you a couple out to you, and then I know that you guys and your crew and your people, and they like to come out to Arizona every now and then, and I'm just throwing my name in the hat.
Awesome.
And take you guys out on a little desert adventure.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
All right, gentlemen.
Take care,
you have a blessed. God bless you guys. Have a great
too.
morning. Get some rest.
God bless you too, my
God
friend.
bless. So,
That was a really cool call. Really cool call. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's been a lot of Crystal Gross is saying there's been an uptick of sightings around the PNW. You all know what I'm talking about. Experience in the woods. These Bigfoots and all that. Which, Bigfoots are and all that, Sasquatches, whatever, it's the same thing. It's off the same spool of Satan's seed, if you want to call it that way, So, giants, all these creatures in the woods or whatever the case, Loch Ness Monster type things or whatever. These things are not somebody's imagination, you know what I mean? So, it all comes from the same stem of the genetic corruption from the fallen angels,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? So,
Absolutely,
either giants or whatever, So, and in the ancient days too, we talk about men of renown, and that's where like people like Hercules came from, and things like that, because they had because of the genetics, they had either super strength or whatever the case they would have, and so that's where that comes from.
Yeah, and it just the uptick in the UFO stuff. I mean, my goodness. I mean, like I said, it goes along with the Bigfoot narrative, and I think it just all corresponds into one big lump. It seems like when you look at he was talking about the Mesa and stuff, like we're out his way, but you have, you go to like Skinwalker Ranch and stuff. They literally, I was mind boggled whenever they was on national television, had that show, right? You can take it for what it is, but they was literally talking about like Orion and Pleiades. And there was this gentleman that was looking at the rocks and saying, hey, this is a gateway portal concordance. there was like this writing, this ancient writing day. And I mean, it's like, it's crazy, man. There's so much coming out. It's just, I just thank the Father that that we can at least understand crumbs. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying, honestly, it's just so enjoyable just to go, and then whatever comes, whatever he reveals, I wouldn't want to know everything. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just thankful for like crumbs. It's just such a blessing, to have understanding of these huge topics like this. But getting back into the Word of God is most important. I know we haven't, I've been talking about giants all the time, but getting back to the Word of God and letting that resonate in your mind and let that grow and understand. And, we could talk about giants and stuff. It's a great topic, but we need to get back to the Word of God and really hone in on that and write that in, write those scriptures, read and understand and write it in our brain or heart to retain it. Because this world is like insane land, I
want to point that out too, because like we as believers, now who should be afraid of these giants when they come back? Who should be afraid of these Nephilim and all that? Not us believers. You know what I mean? These are for the wicked, okay? Because the people who got the seal of God on, whoever's left alive on the earth, who are with God, they'll have the seal of God with them on their foreheads, and they're not going to be touched. They're not going to be harmed by the giants or whatever the case. But the wicked will. And the people out there who might be laughing and blah, blah, blah. And I hope and pray that you are not, one of the people that these things torture. And you're going to seek death and you're not going to get it, as the Bible says, And so I would get right with God right now, and I wouldn't even waste a minute, to tell you the truth. And it's not just that. It's like, well, if these things don't come back for another 30 years, it could come back to, next month or whatever. But it's not even that. It's like none of us are guaranteed our next breath. I could walk out of here and be slammed by whatever, and I'm in the grave. Nobody's guaranteed their next breath. So it doesn't matter what's coming next. It's all it matters is you and where you're going to go if you pass away, And you don't want to take that chance. I would never hesitate, And do it in secret, too, like the Father says. Pray in secret. Nobody has to know nothing. Pray in secret. Say, Jesus, please forgive me for my sins. I acknowledge you as my Savior, and I believe in you as my Messiah, and I believe that you died for our sins. And it doesn't have to be perfect like that. Just say it, from your heart, and just acknowledge him that he's your Savior, and you want redemption, and you believe in him, and you want to have everlasting life, and he'll give it to you, And I just want to show you guys quick, too. This is what the mounds he was talking about. Those are what mounds look like. So I'm sure when you guys drive by country areas and whatever, you're going to see a lot of these things. And these things are graves for giants. Not everyone.
Yeah. Absolutely. And what's so bad about it? Remember we referenced it, we talked about it. Old Abraham Lincoln told everybody back in the 1800s, but hey, let's not worry about it now, but literally told everybody that the extinct giants was in the mountains of America. I mean, come on. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
I forgot to bring that up too. Let me get that quote.
What's that? What the Abraham Lincoln? Yeah. So he talks about Niagara Falls, right? So I'm going to do a show on this also on my channel. I'm going to bring it up. I'll touch base with it on it now. I believe that Niagara Falls is some kind of, it used to be connected. I think we're talking about Lake Ontario, Michigan, be Lake Erie, all that. I think they was all connected in one shape or form one time. But yeah, let's go ahead and get that call, Dan.
Sister Anne Marie, how you doing?
Hey, Dan Bidondi and Brian. I could be your mother, but I'm your sister. I figured I'd do that for once. Haven't done it in a while. I could be your mother. But Annie says, thank you so much. I talked to her the other night, Wednesday night, and she says she's up, running, and thank you, everybody. Doing great.
Oh, I got your letter, too, in the mail.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, congratulations. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good. I want to mention real quick about Arizona. My husband took me out because we never had a honeymoon. We just had a small wedding, and he took me out there in 2011, and we went to, I think, the eastern side where the Great Eagle is. Oh, God bless you. Ooh.
Oh, yeah,
where the Great Eagle is. You can stand on one side of Arizona and you can look at the Great Eagle. And they said it's thousands of feet long. And my husband's standing on the cliff. It's windy. It's 30 knots an hour. It's 116 degrees. I'm like, babe, please get off of that, edge. I'm about to yank you best I can. I only weigh 89 pounds, about to yank you off. He's only take pictures, so he asked the Indian guide, and I'm Cherokee. So he asked the Indian guide, what are those things down there? And he says, what are those birds down there? He says, brother, those aren't birds. He says, those are giant eagles. Giant eagles, thousands of feet long, because we were on the sky wall, the clear sky wall, and I was zipping around like a crazy person. I was thinking it was cool. But the atmosphere was absolutely demonic. I told him I can't wait to get out of here. It was fun to go see these areas, but there were hieroglyphs. There were, they had very strict rules when you went to a certain side of the Grand Canyon, very strict rules. And you had to abide by all of them, or they would ask you to, it's actually their land. It's their Indian reservation. And on a secondary note, I wanted to say, Brian, yes, I've heard about the two witnesses. We've also heard that Jesus Christ is over in Israel right now, that the two witnesses are there too. Well, that's not scriptural at all. And Dan, you're 100% right. We have to go to step 39, 40, 41, 50. Everything has to fall into place according to the Father's will. The two witnesses don't show up until the abomination of the desolation, the Antichrist, is revealed, and they show up for 3.5 years, and they kill whoever they want that blasphemes God or tries to hurt them for 3.5 years.
I just thought it was interesting that it was brought out. I wasn't taking it as like a real thing.
I'm sorry. We're going back and forth. This thing. Go ahead.
I was just bringing it up as a thing and it's so interesting that they're making these claims that the two witnesses are here, and then we're changing the 10 Commandments and all this. I just thought it was so strange. I didn't believe it was the two witnesses. Strange. I just thought it was weird. I just thought it was weird that they brought that topic up. It's wild.
It is, and not only that, you notice everything is just really ramped up in the last 30 days, especially since everything's ramped up.
Yeah.
And we were out driving in Murfreesboro, which is about 3 miles away from where we're at, and I was like, look at the coverage in the clouds. This is crazy. And then they had a rocket go off in Florida. They are absolutely short. God is shortening the times. They're ramping things up big time. But Arizona was beautiful, but it was stifling hot. You couldn't hardly breathe because of the humidity. But over in Israel, they're saying the two witnesses are there, and I'm like, not the
so
biblical
strange.
witnesses.
Yeah, I couldn't.
I
just
mean,
didn't put no.
The DOT teaches on that. If anybody
I didn't put no.
Know, they teach
I didn't put any. Sorry, but I didn't put any I didn't put my money in on it and say, hey, this is legit, because I was like, this is insane that this is like they're bringing this stuff up, right now. Like I thought, well, the 18th was the last day of the COP27 event, for the Mount Sinai, and I just thought it was interesting. Now they're shaping up. Hey, we got the two witnesses here, so it's like, how much more is it? It's almost blasphemous, and I think let's just say for fun, let's just say there is two characters that's popping up. There's been characters throughout biblical and everything. I mean, come on, it could be literally false. It could be angels masquerading as men. You know what I'm saying? This stuff has been fooled before. It could be just, any kind of deity of some shape or form taking the form of man and then claiming to be the two witnesses. And I think this is what's going to be causing the great deception. It's insane world, man. It's crazy.
Absolutely, and people are believing it. That's the sad thing. They're getting duped into believing it. Oh, they're building the third temple. Oh, and Jesus is back. He's walking on. No, he's not. Every eye's going to see him, whether you're in the grave or you're obliterated. Every eye is going to see him.
Exactly.
Amen.
Every eye. Amen, Dan. Every eye is going to see him, whether you are asleep in hell or in the bosom of Abraham. Every eye is going to see him. So you ain't getting out of it. And just like you said, for 5 months, your butt's going to be stung by scorpions and half lion faces. So you can't go in your, I'll say the word, the Carwitchians. You can't go into your bunkers and grow your food and have your infinity pool down there with the KKK, Kardashian clan, and you can't hide. Who can hide from the Most High? You can't. So,
Amen.
Please, people, encourage your friends. If someone mocks you, take it as a strike for the Father and bear with them, like Dan did tonight. Pray for them, like Brian did. Just pray for them, because we sound like we're crazy because we're teaching the real Jesus, and these churches are teaching this false, everything's about love, love, love. No, God hated Esau. He hates the things that are going on here. Psalm 7:11, easy to remember. God's anger with the wicked all the day long. So let us pray for our enemies, but love the remnant even more. Love the household of faith. And Brian, you just, you deer smacked me tonight with some good information.
Bless you, Ann.
I'm glad you're okay, because we have deer too, and they're really domesticated. They'll just run right out, Oh, I am a deer. I'm going to hit your car. So
this was
note
something
for
that
everybody,
I've never
hit them straight on.
Yeah, I've seen some.
Don't turn
I've
to the
had
left
some,
or the right.
this is-
Hit it straight on, and that way you are actually protected by your grill. Get down with it by your grill. You're protected by your grill.
Yeah, my daughter, like I said, my daughter was driving, and it was probably it's one of the craziest things I've ever experienced. It was a supernatural protection from the Father. I've never seen nothing like it in my life. I'll never forget it. Yeah.
No, it's. I'll be praying for you. I know it's kind of shocking. It's kind of like
this whole week's been shocking. This whole week's been shocking.
I would appreciate some prayers, guys. I had some surgery yesterday on my foot, and they're saying I have severe nerve damage, and I've had my foot broke 3 times. I never even went to the doctor. I finally went to the doctor. He's like, "Oh yeah. You need to have this done," and they stuck pins and needles and all kind of electrical stuff, and I'm like, I'm in the room going, ah!
Yeah.
Because they shock you with this thing, and I'm like, well, that didn't hurt at all. But then he stuck the big one, and he goes, this one's going to hurt. And it was done by a Christian, so he was praying for me while I was getting it done. I'm like, thank you.
Amen.
So, God love, we'll be praying for you guys, and thank you for your show. Brian, glad you're okay and your family's all right, and Dan, glad you got your note, and we love you, and just keep praying, guys, and be aware. Get in the Word. You don't want to be spiritually anorexic.
Yeah.
Because you will be. That's what I tell my spiritual daughter. If you're not in the Word every day, you will be, and it's a horrible term to use, but it's true, you will be spiritually anorexic, and that opens a huge portal, gate, and a doorway for you to be deceived. Right there. So we don't want to be deceived on any point. And no, we'll never know everything, and I thank God for that. Because even Elijah, I'm undone. I'm like a dead man. Don't show me anymore. Yeah, it's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, oh my gosh. But I'd rather know what's coming at me than be Boomhauer. No pun intended, but you know what I mean? Let me go outside the side of the road and yeah, you doing? Yeah, hey, Bill. So anyway, I'll let you go, Brian. You do great impressions.
Thank you.
So I just want to, one last thing. How'd you do tonight, Dan?
Oh, good.
Did you beat him?
Yeah. My partner lost, so,
I know you smashed him.
Yeah, like pressed him.
That's the new fad. Pressed leather is a new fad for 2023. Yeah. I'm like, whatever, I'll make some out of lambskin. All right, well, I love you guys. I'll let you go. I'm going to bed. Okay, talk to you later.
I'm going to bed in a little while, too.
Be blessed.
Seriously, my pillow's going to meet my head. Okay, shalom. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Shalom. Bye-bye.
That'll probably be the last phone call there, guys, because I'm like, I can't tell you how burnt out I am. Because yesterday I had to work a double and 16 hours. before that, I got 3 hours sleep. And, we're going to the gym and everything else. So I got out of work and got a couple hours sleep, and then, woke up and with a migraine headache. Went and did my wrestling match and everything else, and then flew over here to do the show. So I am I'm trying to stay awake, to be honest with you. And usually I'm, wide awake and fired up at this time. It's just like it's been a long few days. And I'm like, my body and my mind and both body are just burnt, So I'm glad it's a Shabbat. So I'm gonna take advantage of the Shabbat and rest. That's for sure.
Yeah, amen. Been a good show, Dan.
Yeah.
Thanks for everybody being on here.
Yeah.
There's quite a few people watching, so it's been a blessing for having everybody gather with us tonight.
Yeah, and thank you to new listeners coming on too. And this is what we bring, guys. We try to do a Monday or Wednesday we'll do a spiritual warfare, but every Friday we're gonna bring you a spiritual warfare show. And next Friday we got Trey Boy coming on, our buddy Trey Harris from CashApp and me, Brian and Trey. We're gonna really rip into this one. And I did a video, just a random video, I think it was last night, on Satan and Lucifer. You all heard that. I mean, it's going around like wildfire now. People think that Satan and Lucifer are the same person because of the mistranslation from the NIV. And people don't understand that it's more than one morning star. You know what I mean? It's 3 morning stars. You know what I mean? They don't get that either. But for some reason, they think that and I heard Bible scholars, right? So-called Bible scholars on TikTok. Did you know Jesus and Lucifer are the same person? And it's like, you just want to smack them. You really do. They're not the same person. But, that video I did yesterday and just put out some facts about it. But next week, we're just going to really hammer this home. We're going to lay this to rest completely. And I encourage you, if you know anybody that thinks Satan and Lucifer are the same person, watch the show next week and you can call in. And if you're still not convinced, call in and challenge us. You know what I mean? But Satan, and I can assure you 100%, and the Bible 100%, clearly says Satan and Lucifer are two different. I'm sorry, Lucifer and Jesus are two different people. You know what I mean? God's not going to, it says Lucifer, we threw you out, threw you out in heaven, and you're going to be cursed and all that. Is Jesus cursed? Jesus is sitting, he didn't get thrown out of heaven. He's sitting at the right hand of God right now, right at the throne. The throne of God, right beside him is Jesus. So that alone should do enough. But I can't believe people go out there and just think there's, Satan and Lucifer because they hear some mistranslation from the NIV Bible, whatever the case, or some clown out there that claims to be a Bible scholar. You know what I mean? It's totally ludicrous to even think that. But that's the topic for next Friday. And so we might get a show on Monday or Wednesday, too. We'll see what's going on.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure Brian wants to dig more into this giant stuff. And we might have one on Wednesday. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Super cool show, Dan.
Yeah, thank you, Brian.
Yeah, it's been a blessing. I hope everybody got something out of it today.
Yeah.
So.
And Lenio, Lenio, I would very encourage you right now to watch my video from yesterday, because when you see this, you gotta see Satan and Lucifer clearly not the same person. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how they're complete opposite. You know what I mean? Satan and Jesus. I'm going today, guys. I'm sorry. Lucifer and Jesus, okay? They are not the same person. I can assure you that 100%. Watch the video I did last night and watch it next week, too. Not even close to being the same. You know what I mean? Again, it's that morning star thing. And the thing is, the King James never calls him the morning star. It's the NIV that calls him the morning star. The King James, the Geneva, all the way back, don't call him the morning star. He's called the morning, son of the morning. Son of the morning, not the morning star. And it's the NIV that calls him the morning star. The AMP, all the modern day translations that call him the morning star. But the King James, all the way back to the original guys, all say son of the morning, not morning star. Big difference. And there's 3 morning stars, by the way. You know what I mean? So, and you got to remember also the other side of the token too. Everything God does, there's a mirror image for that. So who's Satan want to be after? He wants to mimic everything Jesus does, right? He comes back and says he's the Christ, which is the Antichrist. You know what I mean? Everything that God does, Satan mimics his version. It's a mirror image of that. So with all that alone, I shouldn't even have to say anything more after that. And if you read, there's the thing too. When they read this is what they do, right? They take one Bible verse, right, that says Lucifer, son of the morning star, from the NIV. They don't read the rest. because the rest of the scripture, the rest of it describes who Lucifer is. I'm sorry, he's cast down and all that stuff. Jesus is not cast down, and you read the description; it gives vivid details of Lucifer, right? And you look at that, and how could you even compare that to Jesus? But no, they don't do that. They'll take that one verse out. Oh, Jesus is called the morning star, and Lucifer is too, so therefore the same person. Wrong, because again, it's the modern day translations that call him the morning star. The old translations don't. They say he's the son of the morning. Son of the morning, not the son. You know what I mean? So, again, if you know anything about Jesus, okay, and you look and examine who Lucifer is and you think they're the same, you really need to read the gospel because you're completely lost. You really are. Because that one single verse, they take it out. And I bring it up now, but I'm dead. I'm just like exhausted. But go watch the video I did last night. And yeah. And that's a prelude to what we're going to be talking about next Friday. So other than that, guys, thank you all for your comments and everything else. And Brian, you got anything to close with?
I think that's it, Dan. I just appreciate you and thank you for everybody in the chat. And thanks for being here and listening to me and Dan have a very interesting conversation. Yeah, go for it, Dan.
Why do it? You want me to do it?
Well, you're exhausted, so yeah, I'll volunteer.
Oh, thank you.
I'll pray. Dear Father in heaven, thank you for this evening. Thank you for another day of a drawing breath, and what a blessing here to be with Brother Dan. Thank you for Spiritual Warfare Friday. Bless everybody in the chat. Thank you for all the good calls that called into the broadcast tonight. Bless us, Lord. I pray, Lord, that we put the full armor of God on, and we just hang on to the garment of Jesus, and we just keep raising up the kingdom and building the kingdom, and we keep reading the Word and edifying, and just help us be a light in this crazy, dark world. And I pray, Lord, for a good Sabbath and a good week to come. And I thank you for all that you do and all the many blessings. And thank you for being so kind to me yesterday. And what a blessing. And thank you for all that you do. In Jesus' name I ask. Amen.
Amen. Yeah, awesome stuff, man. So, yeah, check Brian's show out, too, Visual Disturbance. His link is in the description. And yeah, check all our links out in FOJCRadio, Remnant Restoration, the Midnight Ride, which is coming on tonight, technically. It's Saturday, so 11 p.m. Eastern. Check them out. And that's that quote I wanted to bring up too quick. Abraham Lincoln, he talked about that, though. The eyes of the species of extinct giant whose bones fill the mountains of America have gazed on Niagara Falls as our eyes do now. So he's talking about the mountains and all that. You know what I mean? Giants. Abraham Lincoln knew that. He was a tall guy himself, but he wasn't a giant. But yeah, he knew this stuff. You know what I mean? And they all did. You know what I mean? It's just modern day today. Yeah, it's just like completely gone. You know, all of it. So guys, if you like the broadcast, we got a PayPal, a Venmo, and a CashApp. 3 different ways to support our operation and our ministry. The links are in the description. We also got that Ko-fi thing up there too. It's pinned up in the chat room too. So it helps support our operation and our show and the ministries and all that stuff. So, and also thank you so much, guys. And again, check out the Midnight Ride coming up tonight, 11 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to subscribe to that paid network, it's at the gate something a month. But you can get 30 days free on me right now if you enter the promo code Dan the Man, lowercase one word. All the details and the links and descriptions, everything we just said is in the description of my video here. So that being said, guys, we are out of here. And yeah, thank you once again, Brian. It's,
yeah, thank you, Dan.
Show. So we'll see you next Friday at 10 p.m. Well, before that, probably Wednesday. We'll see. All right. Love you all. God bless. Shalom. And you are the resistance.